My sister gave birth to triplets, and I gave her a gift of 200,000 yuan. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion. That was until the night nurse secretly slipped me a note in the middle of the night. It said, "Go get the third child's DNA tested." Now, I thought it was absurd. The triplets looked identical. Why would I need to test only the third one? The nanny's lips were trembling. Her eyes filled with unconcealable terror. I've been a nanny for 20 years. And I've never seen anything like this. You'd better go now, or it'll be too late. The way she looked at me was as if she were looking at the biggest joke in the world. 1. My sister Maya gave birth to triplets, which is a tremendous blessing for our Su family. No, I should say, for their Zhou family. My brother-in-law Ethan comes from a well-off family and is the only son. My parents had been hoping against hope that my sister would have a son to secure her place in the Zhou family. Well, now it's even better. She's been blessed with 3 healthy baby boys all at once. Outside the delivery room, my mother clasped her hands together, murmuring, "Ancestors, please watch over us," the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes crinkling into a joyful smile. My brother-in-law Ethan was so overwhelmed he could barely speak. He gripped my hand and kept repeating, "Thank you, sis. Thank you for always looking after Maya." As her older sister, I was, of course, absolutely overjoyed. I had already prepared a red envelope with 200,000 yuan inside and promptly handed it to Ethan. "This is a little welcome gift for my 3 nephews. I hope you don't think it's too little." Ethan tried to refuse, but my mom chimed in with a smile. "Your sister gave it to you, so you should take it. It's her way of showing she cares as their aunt." In the hospital room, everyone's face was lit up with happy smiles, and the very air seemed thick with a sweet, joyful warmth. Looking at my sister, weak but radiant with happiness, and at those 3 tiny, wrinkled, yet utterly adorable babies in their incubators, I felt that every single thing I had ever done for this family, for this sister of mine, was worth it. That joy came to an abrupt end late one night. 3 days later, unable to rest easy, I had been staying at a hotel near the hospital for the past few nights, so I could come over at any time. In the middle of the night, I got a call from Auntie Lee, the postpartum nurse. She said one of the babies was spitting up a little and asked me to come take a look. I hurried to the nursery, where Auntie Lee was holding a baby and gently patting its back. When she saw me arrive, her eyes darted away. She gestured for me to follow her into the hallway. The hospital corridor in the dead of night was vast and silent. The harsh, pale lighting sent a chill down one's spine. "Ms. Zoe, there's something. I'm not sure if I should say it." Auntie Lee wrung her hands, her face a mask of unease and fear. My heart sank. "Aunt Lee, please just say it. Is there something wrong with the child?" She shook her head, pulled a neatly folded note from her pocket, and quickly pressed it into my hand. Her fingertips were ice cold and trembling slightly. "Go and get the third child's DNA tested." Now, I froze, staring down at the note. The handwriting was shaky and uneven, clearly written in a state of nervousness. "Aunt Lee, what are you trying to say?" A wave of absurdity washed over me. If the triplets look identical, why single out the third one for a separate check? I've been a postpartum nanny for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Auntie Lee's lips were trembling. She lowered her voice, and every word seemed to be forced out through gritted teeth. "You'd better go now, or it'll be too late." With that, as if afraid of being seen by someone, she hurriedly turned and went back to the nursery, leaving me standing there alone. The look she gave me at the end was filled with terror, pity, and even, as if she were looking at the biggest joke in the world. I clutched the note, my palms slick with cold sweat, my heart hammered wildly in the empty corridor. The next morning, I was completely unsettled by a profound sense of dread. I decided to go find Aunt Lee again and get to the bottom of this. But when I got to the hospital, a nurse told me that Aunt Lee had already left. Left? Where did she go? She said there was an emergency back in her hometown, so she left overnight. Ms. Maya transferred her wages via WeChat. She left in the middle of the night. My sister transferred the payment. My mind went blank with a buzz, and I immediately knew something was wrong. Auntie Lee is an experienced, top-tier maternity nurse who's always methodical. How could she just up and leave so irresponsibly? Unless she had encountered something that forced her to flee immediately. I held that thin slip of paper, feeling as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. I had to figure out what was really going on. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door to my sister's hospital room. Maya was leaning against the headboard, and my mother was feeding her spoonfuls of chicken soup from a bowl. "Sis, what brings you here?" Maya greeted me with a sweet smile. I came to see you and the kids." As I spoke, I walked over to the crib. The three little ones lay side by side, fast asleep. Their cheeks rosy like three identical little apples. I asked, trying to sound casual, "Mom, which one's the oldest, and which is the youngest?" My mom gestured with her chin. "The one on the far left is the oldest, the one on the far right is the youngest." I walked over and, using the excuse of needing to change their diapers, reached out to pick up the youngest one on the right. "Sis," Maya's voice suddenly turned sharp as she stopped me, her tone full of alarm. "The nurse is here. Don't touch her, you've never taken care of a baby before, you might hurt her." Her reaction was too quick, and too intense. My mother walked over, holding a bowl of chicken soup. Seeing what I was doing, her face fell. "Your sister just had a baby. What are you doing here making a mess? You're not a child anymore, yet you're still so thoughtless and clumsy." A knot of frustration tightened in my chest. I defended myself. "I just wanted to bond with my nephews." "Bond?" My mother rolled her eyes, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I think you're just jealous. Your sister married well and had 3 healthy sons, and you, 30 years old and not even a boyfriend in sight. Aren't you ashamed?" Her words were like daggers, stabbing straight into my heart. It's been like this my whole life. Whenever there's any disagreement between me and my sister, I'm always the one at fault. Maya immediately squeezed out a few tears, leaning weakly against the headboard and grabbing my mom's arm. "Mom, don't say that about my sister. She's happy for me too. She just loves kids so much." She seemed to be helping me out, but every word she said was just adding fuel to the fire. Sure enough, my mom got even angrier. "If you like kids so much, go have your own, don't stand there being an eyesore." I looked at Maya's pitiful, delicate face, saw the fleeting glint of triumph in her eyes, and felt a chill run through me. Ever since we were young, I've scrimped and saved, giving her the very best of everything. The tuition for her university was earned through my own hard work from part-time jobs. After she graduated, she didn't want to work, so I was the one giving her a monthly allowance for her wedding dowry. I even drained my savings. I thought we were the closest sisters in the world, but now, looking at her, I only feel a sense of strangeness. Just then, my brother-in-law Ethan pushed the door open and walked in, his hands full of bags of nutritional supplements. He took in the tense, standoffish atmosphere in the hospital room, paused for a moment, and then stepped in to smooth things over in a gentle tone. "Mom, sis, what's going on here? We're family, let's talk this out calmly." My mom immediately started complaining to him. "Why don't you ask your dear sister-in-law what she's thinking, insisting on holding the baby like that?" Ethan looked at me, his eyes holding a subtle distance and confusion. I understood then. He had already bought into what my mother and Maya had told him. In this family, I had become the wicked woman who tried to harm her own nephew. My mother shoved me out of the hospital room. "Get out of here. Stop being so paranoid all the time and stirring up trouble in this house." She slammed the door shut. The red double happiness character still pasted on it now looked unbearably garish. "We appreciate the 200,000, but if you keep this up, don't bother coming back." I stood in the hallway, my hands and feet ice cold. The designer coat I wore offered no defense against the chill rising from deep within. For the first time, I felt like a stranger in this home into which I had poured my heart and soul, an unwelcome, superfluous stranger. I clenched the note in my pocket. I'm determined to get to the bottom of this. It's not just about the 200,000 in wedding gift money, it's also for the nanny with the terrified look in her eyes, and for that poor, clueless man who's still blissfully unaware, and finally, it's for me, for that ridiculous version of myself. The one who was taught from childhood to selflessly sacrifice everything. I wasn't intimidated, on the contrary, it only fueled my fighting spirit. The more you try to stop me, the more it proves there's something fishy going on here. If they won't let me touch the children, then I'll just create an opportunity to do so. I spent a small fortune to have 3 little cotton hats custom made, each embroidered with a golden foo character for good fortune and adorned with tiny silver ornaments. I told my mother that these hats had been blessed by a master, and that having the children wear them would ward off evil, avert disaster, and ensure their healthy growth. The moment my mother heard, "blessed by a master," her eyes lit up, and she was utterly convinced. Under her orders, Maya had no choice but to let me near the children. However reluctantly, holding 3 identical hats, I began to form a plan, while putting hats on the first 2 children. I seized the moment when everyone was distracted to quickly place the tampered hat on the 3rd child. Inside the hat's lining, I had attached a small, soft piece of gauze with double-sided tape. The baby's newborn hair was fine and sparse. A gentle rub was enough to pick up a few strands. Pretending to adjust the baby's cap, I pressed my fingertip lightly against the gauze. Got it. I took the cap off and said nonchalantly, "Oh, this one seems a bit tight. I'll take it back to exchange it." I clutched the hat containing the evidence tightly in my hand, my heart pounding. I had just taken the sample out of the hat, wrapped it in a tissue, and was about to slip it into my pocket. A shadow fell over me from behind, ghostly and silent. "Sis, what are you doing?" It was Maya's voice. I jumped in fright, and the tissue in my hand fell to the floor. She snatched the hat from my hands, turned it over, and immediately spotted the glaring piece of double-sided tape inside. Stuck to it were a few fine, black strands of baby hair. In that instant, Maya's face drained of all color, turning as pale as a sheet, but a mere second later, she let out a heart-wrenching, earth-shattering wail. "Sis, what on earth are you doing?" She collapsed to the floor, pounding her chest as she sobbed uncontrollably, gasping for breath. "Can you really not stand me? Do you really hate to see me doing well?" The crying acted like a signal, instantly drawing everyone in. My mom was the first to rush in, seeing the tissue on the floor and the hat in Maya's hand. She didn't bother asking for an explanation and slapped me hard across the face. A sharp, crisp smack rang out. My face burned with a stinging pain, and a dull roar filled my ears. I cupped my cheek, staring at my mother in disbelief. Her eyes were bloodshot, like an enraged lioness. "You cursed brat, are you trying to drive your sister to her grave?" "Ha!" Maya threw her arms around a nearby crib, wailing in utter despair. "I knew it. I knew you were jealous that I had a son. You want to hurt my baby. You want to kill him." My father rushed over as well, pointing a finger in my face and unleashing a torrent of abuse. "How could our Sioux family raise such a vicious, heartless creature? You have no shame. Get on your knees and apologize to your sister this instant." Ethan held the other two children, his brow deeply furrowed. The look he gave me was filled with disappointment, disgust, and a cold, calculating scrutiny. "Sis, I've always respected you, but this time, you've really gone too far." I was left speechless, with no defense. I looked at this group of people, the ones closest to me, my mother, my father, my sister, and the brother-in-law I've always thought of as my own brother. Not a single one of them was willing to hear me out. They only believed Maya's tears and the malicious narrative they'd concocted in their own heads. I became the jealous, twisted woman who resorted to dark magic to harm her own nephew. My mother even started dredging up the past, listing every single misdeed from my childhood. "You've been a bully since you were a child, always competing with your sister over everything. Toys, new clothes, you had to have it all. Now you see she's married well and living a better life than you, and you just can't stand it. Can you, let me make this clear, Zoe, we're counting on Maya and Ethan to look after us in our old age. Don't you dare try to ruin our family's happiness, our family." So, in their hearts, I stopped being a part of this family a long time ago. I watched their vile faces and listened to their unspeakable curses. My heart grew colder, little by little. The pain on my face was nothing compared to the agony in my heart. I suddenly laughed, a cold, bitter laugh. I slowly straightened up, looked at them, and enunciated each word with perfect clarity. "Fine, since you all think I'm wrong, I'll show you just how wrong I can be. This DNA test is happening, I will see it through." With that, I bent down, picked up the tissue-wrapped hair from the floor, and under their stunned, furious gazes, I turned and strode away. Behind me, my mother's furious shrieks and my sister's even more piercing wails echoed. I did not look back. That slap shattered the last vestiges of my illusions about family. From today onward, I, Zoe, no longer have any family. 3. I leveraged every connection I had built up since becoming the head of legal affairs, pulling strings to secure a spot at the most authoritative testing center and demanding expedited processing. For a paternity test, samples from both parents are required. I've got Lao San's hair. Maya's sample was easy. I picked up the clothes she grabbed me with that day. They had her skin cells on them. Ethan is the tough one. I can't let him find out. I'll have to outsmart him. I remembered that day in the hospital room, when Ethan poured me a glass of water. I didn't drink it, but I tossed that disposable cup into my bag. I rushed home and searched for it immediately. Thank goodness, the cup was still there. I carefully collected any possible traces of oral epithelial cells from the rim of the cup. After sending off the sample, The wait was long and agonizing. 2 days later, I received the report. Thin in pages, yet heavy as a mountain, I took a deep breath and turned to the final page. In the conclusion section, a single line in bold, black typeface pierced my vision like a sharp blade. The DNA analysis results do not support Ethan being the biological father of the individual in question. The source of the hair sample, just as I thought, Auntie Lee didn't lie to me, my intuition was right, too. I sat in the car with the report in my hand, feeling as if the blood in my veins had frozen solid. Then came a tidal wave of emotion, rage, disgust, and an indescribable, profound sorrow. Maya, my dear sister, just how grand a game are you playing? What do you take Ethan for? A fool you can deceive at will, a walking ATM to raise your bastard child. I didn't go to Ethan right away. I wanted to give Maya one last chance. Or rather, I wanted to see for myself the look on her face when her lies came crashing down. I arranged to meet her at a quiet cafe. She arrived, exquisitely dressed and exuding an air of a high society lady, her face wearing a victor's blend of restraint and condescension. Sis, I'm glad you've come around and took the initiative to meet me. She stirred her coffee with an elegant grace, as if she weren't the same person who had thrown a tantrum at the hospital. All right, what is it? If you've come to your senses to apologize, I'll accept it. I looked at her hypocritical face and could no longer hold back. I slammed the DNA report down hard on the table in front of her. Coffee splashed out, leaving an ugly stain on her white dress. Don't you have anything to say to me? Maya's pupils contracted sharply as she saw the glaring conclusion on the report. The color visibly drained from her face. Her composure and elegance crumbled in an instant. But that moment of panic lasted only a second. The very next instant, she actually smiled. It wasn't a guilty smile, nor a flustered one. It was a calm, composed smile laced with mockery and pity. Then, with deliberate slowness, she drew another file folder from her Hermes handbag. She slid a report from within the folder across the table toward me. Sis, why are you doing this? I looked down. It was another DNA paternity test report. The conclusion at the top was glaringly clear. The results support Ethan as the biological father of the subjects, Sue E., Sue Air, and Sue San, all three children. Without exception, the name of the testing agency carries more authority and prestige than the one I used. The report bore a clear, embossed seal, along with the names of all three children. I'm completely stunned. How could this happen? I know you're not willing to accept this. Maya's voice drifted over, laced with cruel satisfaction. But framing me with a forged report is just too despicable. Sis, do you really think Ethan would believe your shady, unverifiable document, or trust this report of mine, the one our family of 3, no, 5, went and got done together? Just then, I heard the familiar sound of footsteps behind me. I turned my head stiffly. Ethan, along with my parents, rose from the adjacent table. Their faces wore identical expressions of icy contempt. So, this wasn't a confrontation at all, it was a setup. A trap that Maya had meticulously laid for me. Ethan walked up to me, looking down with a gaze as cold as steel. Zoe, for the sake of you being my wife's sister, I don't want to push this to the absolute limit. From now on, please don't come and disturb our lives anymore. My mother pointed at me, trembling with rage. We have no daughter like you. You're nothing but a troublemaker. You've completely disgraced the Sue family name. My father looked utterly heartbroken. You've let us down so much, he said. Meanwhile, Maya, my frail and helpless sister, was nestled in Ethan's arms like a delicate bird. She peered over Ethan's shoulder, fixing me with a triumphant, challenging glare. The smile on her lips was both smug and venomous. I could almost hear the sound of my heart breaking, piece by piece, shattering on the ground. They turned the tables on me. I held the truth in my hands. Yet I was branded a lying lunatic, a despicable fraud. I was cast into the abyss by all my so-called family, all alone and helpless, for I was thrown out of the cafe. No, I fled in a panic. Behind me were their scornful gazes and the pointing fingers of onlookers. I felt like a clown stripped naked, performing a ridiculous one-man show for the crowd. When I got home, I discovered I had been blocked by every single one of them. WeChat, phone calls. Every line of communication had been severed. In this way, they declared my permanent exile from their world. I shut myself away at home for 3 days and 3 nights. I ate and drank nothing, like a walking corpse. I couldn't make sense of it. Why, how could a genuine report lose to a fake one? How did Maya pull that off? Could it be that Aunt Lee and my intuition were both wrong? Am I really going crazy? A massive wave of frustration and despair washed over me, completely engulfing me. My work suffered too. I was so distracted that I kept making mistakes. The head of the legal department called me in for a talk and warned me that if this continued, I should prepare to hand over my duties. I felt like the whole world had abandoned me. It was during the darkest period of my life, when I had even begun to doubt myself, that an unknown number called late one night. I answered numbly, and from the other end of the line came a familiar, trembling voice. "Ms. Zoe, it's Auntie Lee." My heart gave a violent lurch, and I instantly sat bolt upright on the sofa. "Auntie Lee, Ms. Zoe, I'm so sorry, so sorry." Auntie Lee's voice on the other end of the line was choked with tears. I was forced into it that day. My eyes welled up instantly. "Auntie Lee, what on earth happened? Tell me slowly." Auntie Lee's voice, halting and broken, pieced together a truth that sent chills down my spine. She said that after caring for so many children, her intuition told her something was off, although the triplets looked alike. Their demeanors and some subtle features always struck her as different. Then one day, while bathing the youngest, she discovered a faint, tiny red mole on the sole of his foot. The eldest and the second child, however, had perfectly clean soles, nothing on them at all. As an experienced maternity nurse, her internal alarm bells went off immediately. The more damning piece of evidence was a phone call she overheard by chance. Late that night, she got up and passed by Maya's hospital room. Hearing hushed yet excited voices coming from inside, as if guided by some unseen force, she came to a halt. She heard Maya speaking into the phone in a tone she had never heard before, intimately affectionate and coquettish. "Kai, our baby is healthy and looks so much like you. Don't worry. When the time is right, I'll make sure he's welcomed into the family." That fool Ethan, still happily thinking he's gained a son. Aunt Lee was scared out of her wits and almost cried out. She had planned to find a chance to warn Ethan the next day, but before she could act, a man cornered her in the hospital corridor. The man was tall, burly, with a scar on his face, and looked utterly menacing. He didn't say a word, just flashed a menacing spider tattoo on his wrist. Then he pointed at Aunt Lee, then at his own mouth, making a zipping motion. The sheer menace in his eyes made Aunt Lee's legs go weak instantly. That very afternoon, Maya politely let her go, citing that, "We have enough help at home now," and without another word, he transferred 50,000 yuan to her via WeChat. That wasn't a salary, it was hush money. Aunt Lee took the money and fled back to her hometown overnight, living in fear for several days. But her conscience was uneasy. She felt she had wronged Ethan, who was kept in the dark, and also wronged me, the foolish aunt, who had given her a 200,000 yuan red envelope. She went through a lot of trouble to get my phone number from a fellow villager. "Ms. Zoe, in my 20 years in this field, I've never seen anything like this. Those first two children are definitely twins, but the third one, absolutely not. I once heard an old doctor talk about a condition called superfetation. It's when a woman gets pregnant again while she's already pregnant. It's incredibly rare, but it does happen." Auntie Lee's words hit me like a bolt of lightning, instantly clearing away all the confusion in my mind. Superfetation, no wonder the three children look so alike. They're all Maya's children. No wonder Maya's fake report fooled Ethan. She probably only took the first and second child for the paternity test. Ethan would never have thought that his triplet sons needed to be tested one by one. Aunt Lee also provided a crucial piece of information. "I just remembered, when your sister was 5 weeks pregnant, she told the family she was going back to our hometown for a month to rest, said the air was better there, but I noticed all her social media posts during that time were geotagged in the neighboring city. I thought it was odd at the time, but I didn't dwell on it. The neighboring city, the spider tattoo." My grip on the phone tightened, my knuckles turning white from the strain. A fierce fire was rekindled in my eyes. I'm not crazy. The truth is far more sordid and horrifying than I ever imagined. "Maya, my dear sister, just you wait. Big sister's game is only just beginning." 5. I pulled myself together. This time, I wasn't fighting alone. I had a clear lead and a direction, the neighboring city, and the spider tattoo. I didn't go looking for a private investigator again. Once bitten, twice shy. I had to investigate this matter myself to be absolutely certain, using the access afforded by my legal work. I gained entry to several databases under the guise of conducting company business background checks. I narrowed the search parameters to a few key terms: neighboring city, fitness industry, and prior criminal record. Soon enough, a man named Kai came into view, aged 28. He was a star trainer at a high-end fitness club in a neighboring city, standing 185 centimeters tall. Handsome and powerfully built. More importantly, his file clearly noted a spider tattoo on his wrist. Furthermore, he had been detained for 15 days 3 years prior for involvement in a group brawl. That's the one. I immediately took my annual leave and drove to the neighboring city. I changed into workout clothes, disguised myself as a potential member, and walked into that fitness club. The club was lavishly decorated, filled with well-dressed men and women coming and going. I spotted Kai in the free weights area, coaching a female client. He was undeniably good-looking, with a bronze tan, well-defined muscles, and a roguish smile that women seemed to find irresistible. On his left wrist, a black spider tattoo stood out starkly under the lights. I casually walked over and asked him about his training programs. I hinted around, mentioning that a friend of mine had also signed up for a membership here and had recently had a baby, wondering if he remembered her. As I spoke, I described Maya's appearance and figure. Kai's eyes noticeably flickered for a moment. He quickly covered it up, smiling as he said, "We have many female members here, especially ones as lovely as your friend. I'm sure I'd remember, but I haven't seen her around lately." He didn't deny it. He knows Maya. My heart began to race. I added him on WeChat, said I'd think about it, and then left the gym. That night, I paid a hefty sum to an information broker for Kai's phone records and hotel check-in history from the past year. The evidence was laid out before me in no time. During the very month my sister Maya claimed she was back in her hometown resting for the pregnancy, a number labeled "baby" appeared in Kai's call logs with a staggering frequency. I knew that number by heart. It was Maya's personal number. Meanwhile, check-in records from a 5-star hotel in the neighboring city showed that Kai and Maya had stayed together in the same room 3 times that month, for several days on each occasion. The dates of their hotel stays were recorded down to the exact day. As I flipped through these cold, clinical records one by one, a wave of visceral disgust washed over me. My sweet, gentle, and ever-obedient little sister, she was secretly meeting another man in a hotel while pregnant, hiding it from her own husband, and that man was the biological father of the bastard child she was carrying. I kept digging deeper. An even more shocking revelation came to light. Kai was a hopeless gambling addict. He had racked up a massive debt, over $1 million, on overseas gambling websites, and Maya had been using the supplementary bank card Ethan gave her to help pay off his debts. Every single transaction record is a clear testament to her greed and stupidity. It turns out, Sue was not only unfaithful during her marriage, but also got pregnant with her lover's child. She was also a complete, brother-obsessed enabler. Except the brother she was enabling wasn't a blood relative, but her secret lover. She used her husband's money to support her lover, raise her lover's child, and even pay off her lover's gambling debts. Ethan, the man who had adored her and cherished her like a precious treasure, had been made a complete and utter fool. I printed out everything, the photos, the call logs, the bank transfer records, and compiled it all into a thick stack. As I looked at this mountain of irrefutable evidence, my hands trembled, half from rage, half from exhilaration, but I didn't act on impulse. I know this evidence is enough to prove Maya's infidelity, but it's not enough to finish her off completely. She could claim Kai deceived her and shift all the blame onto him. Given my parents' favoritism towards her and Ethan's feelings for her, she'll likely weasel her way out of this again. I need an irrefutable, complete chain of evidence, a final judgment that will seal her fate forever. 6. I know exactly where the flaw is in Maya's so-called authentic report. She only tested the first and second child, exploiting Ethan's trust in her and his lack of medical knowledge. To completely dismantle her lie, I need samples from all 3 children, plus from her and Ethan, to conduct the most comprehensive paternity test possible. But after the last, hair-snatching, incident, they're on high alert against me. I can't get anywhere near the kids. Brute force won't work. We have to outsmart them. I need a setup, a trap they'll all walk into willingly. I dialed my mom's number. The moment the call connected, all the emotions I'd been bottling up came pouring out. I was crying, my voice choked with remorse and self-pity. "Mom, it was my fault. I shouldn't have been so blind, so suspicious of Maya. I was just jealous of her. I couldn't stand seeing her do better than me. It ate away at me. Mom, scold me, hit me, do whatever you want. Just please, forgive me." I tearfully repeated all the things my mom usually yells at me. My mom on the other end of the line fell silent for a long time. Then, I heard a smug, dismissive snort. So now you realize you were wrong, too late. Alright, since you still have a shred of conscience, I'll give you a chance. This weekend, we're holding the 100-day celebration at home. You come, and in front of all our relatives, you kneel down, kowtow, and apologize to your sister and her husband. If you can do that, we'll still acknowledge you as our daughter. Kneel down and kowtow. I feigned hesitation. What? You don't want to? If you don't, then you can forget about ever setting foot in this house again. I do. I agreed, my voice choked with tears. I hung up the phone, the tear stains still fresh on my face, yet a cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. The fish has taken the bait. On the day of the 100-day celebration, the Zhou family villa was festooned with decorations and bustling with guests. I wore my plainest, oldest dress, with no makeup on, looking utterly haggard and down on my luck. The moment I stepped inside, I became the center of attention. My mother pulled me along and, as if presenting a trophy, announced to all the relatives, "Look, here's my wayward eldest daughter, who's come today specifically to apologize to her sister and brother-in-law." Dressed in a custom Chanel suit and holding onto Ethan's arm, Maya couldn't hide the air of superiority on her face. She walked up to me and said with feigned magnanimity, "I'm just glad you could make it, sis. Let's just let bygones be bygones." I kept my head down, looking utterly meek and submissive. As the banquet began, I made sure to keep my profile exceedingly low. I served tea, poured water, offered toasts, and made apologies. I used up every kind word and humble phrase I had in me. Under the gaze of everyone present, I walked up to Maya and Ethan, holding my glass. "Maya, Ethan, I was in the wrong before. I offer you my sincerest apology." As I spoke, I bent my knees, making as if to kneel down. Ethan, kind-hearted after all, quickly reached out to stop me. "Sis, don't do that. We're family," my mother said coolly from the side. "It's good that you know we're family." On the faces of Maya and my parents was a look of smug, triumphant satisfaction, as if they had finally crushed me underfoot. At that very moment, I accidentally swayed, and the red wine in my glass splashed perfectly onto both Ethan and Maya. "Oh no," I cried out. The wine stained Ethan's white shirt and splattered onto Maya's expensive dress. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was an accident." I apologized frantically. They had no choice but to go upstairs and change. The opportunity had arrived. I immediately followed them, using the excuse of helping to tidy up, and managed to get my hands on the clothes they had changed out of, stained with red wine and flecked with their skin cells. Then, I pulled out the special gift I had so meticulously prepared from my bag, 3 identical, heavy solid gold longevity locks. I went to the temple especially to have these blessed. They're for my 3 nephews' 100th day celebration, and I want to put them on the boys myself, with everyone watching. No one could refuse this gesture of goodwill. Maya even praised me, saying, "Sis, you've finally come around. You really do care about the children." My mother nodded in approval. "Now that's how an older sister should act." I smiled, but inside, my heart had turned to ice. They had no idea that on the inner clasp of each of those 3 longevity locks, I had applied a special gel. It was harmless to the skin but perfectly designed to collect a sufficient sample of oral epithelial cells. I took each of the 3 children in my arms, one after another, pretending to play with them. I coaxed them to open their little mouths and, accidentally, let the lock's headpiece brush against the inside of their mouths. Collection successful, the banquet concluded, and amidst the jovial atmosphere, I took my leave, my spoils in hand. The moment I stepped out of the villa's gate, I glanced back at the brilliantly lit Zhou residence. "Maya, my dear sister, enjoy your last good days. Your day of reckoning has come." 7. I never went back to that institution again. I went straight to the city's most authoritative forensic identification center and requested an expedited service. I demanded the most comprehensive genetic sequencing available. It wasn't just about establishing paternity. I also needed to determine whether the first and second child were, in fact, identical twins. I need a piece of ironclad evidence that will leave Maya speechless and silence everyone. I couldn't sleep a wink for the 2 nights I waited for the results. It was a mix of nerves and the thrill of impending revenge. On the morning of the 3rd day, I got my hands on that thick report. My hands trembled as I turned the pages, one by one. Genomic sequence comparison results. The genetic sequence similarity between the subject, sample A, first child, and the subject, sample B, second child, is 99%. consistent with monozygotic, identical, twin characteristics, paternity test results. A biological parent-child relationship exists between the subjects, sample A, first child, and sample B, second child, and the subjects, sample D, Ethan, and sample E, Maya. Reading this, my heart leapt into my throat. I turned to the final page, which contained the paternity test results for Lao San. Paternity test result. A biological parent-child relationship is confirmed between the subject, sample C, Lao San, and the subject, sample E, Maya. A biological parent-child relationship is excluded between the subject, sample C, Lao San, and the subject, sample D, Ethan, and so, the matter was settled. Superfetation, different fathers. This family scandal, shocking enough to rock the entire city, was now laid out in stark black and white, clearly printed on this sheet of paper. I gathered all the materials, the report, Kai's personal file, the hotel check-in records with Maya, the financial transaction details, and the restored audio testimony from Auntie Lee, and neatly placed them into a manila envelope. I didn't inform my parents, and I certainly didn't go looking for Maya. I know it's pointless to say anything more to them. There's only one person who can put an end to this farce, Ethan. I dialed his number. He was taken aback when he answered my call. His tone cold and distant. What is it? I'm at the cafe downstairs from your office. There's something you need to see for yourself. I don't have time. About your 3 sons, I said, my tone growing more insistent. Are you sure you don't want to come and see for yourself? There was silence on the other end of the line. 5 minutes later, Ethan appeared at the cafe entrance, dressed in a sharp, well-tailored suit. His face was a mask of wariness and impatience as he strode over to me. Zoe, what are you up to now? I didn't say a word, just slid the thick manila envelope across the table toward him. I know this is cruel, but you have a right to know the truth. Ethan frowned and reluctantly opened the envelope. The first document he pulled out was the DNA test report. When he saw the identical twins and the paternity test results for the first and second child, his brow relaxed slightly, as if he thought I was making a fuss over nothing. But when he flipped to the last page and saw the line stating, paternity excluded, his expression changed instantly, from impatience to confusion and finally to shock. He looked up at me, his expression one of utter disbelief. I pointed expressionlessly at the remaining contents of the file folder. With trembling hands, he pulled out the photo of Kai, the sordid hotel records, and the glaringly obvious bank transfer statements. The color drained from his face, shifting from flushed red to deathly pale, and finally to a sickly, ashen gray. His hand, clutching the document, trembled violently, the veins on its back standing out in stark relief. Finally, I pressed the play button on my phone. Aunt Lee's clear recording began to play in the quiet cafe. Kai, our baby is perfectly healthy, and looks so much like you. That idiot Ethan. Each word landed like a sledgehammer, crushing down on Ethan's heart. The shock in his eyes slowly twisted into humiliation, before finally igniting into a towering rage. The chill of his murderous intent seemed to permeate the entire cafe. He remained silent for a long time, so long that I thought he would break down on the spot, but he didn't. Slowly, methodically, he placed every single document back into the folder, one by one, with meticulous care. When he looked up again, the gentle, refined man was gone. In its place was a face that was cold, resolute, even somewhat ferocious. The way he addressed me had changed as well. Zoe, he nodded, his voice hoarse yet remarkably firm. Thank you. I know what I must do. 8. That weekend, Ethan summoned us all to the Sue family's old house under the pretext of discussing the children's household registration. My snobbish mother, thinking her son-in-law was about to handle some major business for her grandchildren, had specially prepared a lavish feast, beaming with joy. Maya was also dressed to the nines, cradling that little bastard of hers and sitting cozily next to Ethan. During the meal, my mother kept putting food on Ethan's plate, murmuring, Ethan, for Maya to have married you, she must have done something truly wonderful in a past life. My father chimed in from the side, that's right, from now on, we old folks are counting on you too. Maya smiled bashfully and nudged Ethan with her elbow. Honey, see how much Mom and Dad adore you. A smile was fixed on Ethan's face, but it never reached his eyes. He took a sip of his drink and abruptly set his chopsticks down. the living room fell silent in an instant. He pulled a stack of documents from his briefcase and slapped them down in the center of the dining table. It was a copy of the DNA report. Maya, don't you have anything to say for yourself? Ethan's voice was quiet, yet it landed like a thunderclap in everyone's ears. The color drained from Maya's face the instant she saw the report. But she was still fighting a losing battle. What is this? Honey, don't listen to my sister's nonsense. She must have forged this. She's trying to ruin us. She said this while glaring at me with pure venom. My mother caught on immediately. She slammed the table, pointed at me, and yelled, Zoe, you bitch. What the hell are you up to now? You're not welcome in this family. Ethan let out a cold sneer. He ignored my mother's shouting and instead took out his phone, pressing play. Aunt Lee's voice, Kai's voice, and Maya's coquettish tones intertwined and echoed through the living room. Kai, our child, that idiot Ethan. Then, one by one, he scattered the photos of Kai and Maya's intimate kiss at the hotel entrance like confetti, letting them fall to the ground. The truth could no longer be hidden. Maya completely broke down. With a heavy thud, she dropped to her knees, crawled over, and clung to Ethan's leg, sobbing uncontrollably. Darling, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I lost my head for a moment. He seduced me. It's you I love. My parents were completely stunned. As they looked at the photos on the floor and listened to their daughter's shameless words on the recording, their faces flushed a deep, purplish red. However, my mother's reaction the very next second once again shattered my understanding of the world. Instead of reprimanding her own daughter, she rushed forward and clung to Ethan's leg, wailing even more pitifully than Maya. Ethan, she just had a momentary lapse in judgment. Men aren't the only ones who stray, women can too. She knows she was wrong. For the sake of the 3 children. No, for the sake of the 2 children, please forgive her this one time. We're begging you, we're on our knees. My father caught on and chimed in. That's right, Ethan. Don't air the family's dirty laundry in public. The child needs a mother. For the child's sake, please give her another chance. I watched this absurd scene with a cold stare. At this point, their concern wasn't how grievously their daughter had erred, but how to keep Ethan, their golden goose, and secure their own comfortable future. As Ethan looked down at the family clinging to his leg, the last trace of warmth vanished from his eyes. He laughed, a laugh filled with profound sorrow. With brutal force, he kicked Maya away. Then, he made a phone call. The team of lawyers, who had been waiting outside the door, filed in one by one. Divorce. Ethan looked at Maya. His voice was quiet, yet each word landed with the weight of a sledgehammer on everyone's heart. I want custody of my 2 biological sons. As for her, and her son, he paused, enunciating each word deliberately. They leave with nothing. 9. The divorce proceedings were over quickly. Faced with an overwhelming mountain of evidence, Maya had no room to maneuver. She was evicted from the riverside villa she had once been so proud of, and with her precious darling 3rd child in tow, moved into a shabby rental flat that cost just $800 a month. All the luxury goods and bank accounts under her name were frozen. Overnight, she plummeted from the clouds into the mud, and that man named Kai, her Kai. Upon learning that Maya had been left with nothing and his own dream of marrying into wealth was utterly shattered, immediately revealed his true, monstrous nature. He showed up at her place, and upon realizing Maya was of no further use to him, he beat her up and demanded she pay him a breakup fee. Maya was left battered and bruised. With nowhere left to turn, she actually had the nerve to call me. On the phone, she was sobbing uncontrollably, begging me to lend her money. Sis, I'm begging you. Please, for the sake of me being your own sister, help me. Kai is going to kill me. I was tricked by him too. Listening to her hypocritical sobbing, I could only find it laughable. My own sister, I sneered. I don't have a good sister who would sleep with my husband and then turn around and frame me for it. I hung up the phone without another word. When Kai realized he couldn't squeeze anything more out of Maya, he set his sights on me. That day, as I was leaving work, he ambushed me in the underground parking garage. He leaned against my car door, lit a cigarette, and gave me a cocky, insolent stare. So, Zoe, right, your sister's sister. He revealed the hideous spider tattoo on his wrist. You ruined my plans. You ruined the rest of my life. So, how do you think we should settle this? My heart clenched, but I kept my face impassive. What do you want? Give me 500,000, he said, blowing a smoke ring. 500,000. In exchange for the safety of you and your 2 nephews. Otherwise, who knows what I their godfather, might be driven to do. He was actually threatening me with the children. Rage burned within me, but reason warned me not to provoke him. I pretended to be afraid, my voice trembling as I said, I don't have that kind of money. You're the head of legal. Your salary isn't exactly low, is it? Don't play poor with me, he said, narrowing his eyes. I'll give you 3 days to think it over. Same time, same place in 3 days. If the money isn't ready, you'll face the consequences. I nodded frantically, agreeing over and over. The moment he swaggered off, I started the car, but I didn't go home. I drove straight to the police station. I recounted Kai's threats to the police in detail and handed over the voice recorder I had hidden in my bag, which had been running the whole time. I also told Ethan about the situation. Ethan was furious on the phone. He immediately ramped up security for the 2 children, hiring 4 bodyguards to protect them around the clock in shifts. 3 days later, on the day of the exchange, following the police's plan, I arrived at the underground garage carrying a money case stuffed with scrap paper. Kai was already waiting there. He saw the case in my hand, and a greedy smile spread across his face. Smart move. He walked over, snatched the case, and opened it to inspect the contents. The very moment he opened the case and found it full of nothing but scrap paper, he flew into a rage. Plainclothes officers, who had been lying in wait, swarmed in and pinned him firmly to the ground. The cold, hard handcuffs were snapped shut around his wrists. That arrogant spider would never fly again. 10. After his arrest, Kai's psychological defenses crumbled almost instantly. In the interrogation room, hoping for a reduced sentence, he spilled everything, holding nothing back. He even revealed shocking, deeper secrets, details I hadn't even uncovered. So, he and Maya had planned everything from the start. The superfetation was no accident at all. It was a meticulously orchestrated scheme. While trying to conceive with Ethan, Maya tracked her ovulation and then went to see Kai. She intended to use this method to covertly transform Kai's son into the crown prince of the Zhou family. Their ultimate goal was far more sinister than simply having the child acknowledged by his father's family. Their plan was to wait until the child was firmly established as the 3rd young master of the Zhou family, then seize an opportunity to stage an accident and eliminate Ethan. At that point, Maya, as Ethan's widow and the mother of his 3 children, would rightfully inherit all of Ethan's assets. Meanwhile, Kai could step out from the shadows and join Maya in reaping the rewards. They had even begun siphoning off a portion of the funds by falsifying household expenses and forging luxury goods invoices. Following the leads provided by Kai, the police quickly uncovered a secret account under Maya's name. The amount in the account matched perfectly with Kai's gambling debts on overseas websites and his daily extravagant spending. The evidence is irrefutable. Maya, as an accomplice, was soon summoned for criminal questioning. When the police found her, she was in her rented room, throwing a tantrum at the landlord because she couldn't pay the rent. She was dressed in cheap, shoddy clothes, with greasy hair and a haggard face. All traces of her former elegance were gone. Handcuffed, she was led past me. When her eyes met mine, there was no remorse, only venom and hatred. She screamed and cursed, as if I were the one who had ruined her life. Zoe, I hope you die a horrible death. I'll haunt you from beyond the grave. I stared at her with an impassive face, my heart utterly still. Pity the wretched, for they are often wretched for a reason. I didn't ruin your life, you did. In the end, the court held a trial. Kai was sentenced to 15 years in prison, having been convicted on multiple charges including extortion, making threats against others, and participating in fraud. Maya was sentenced to 8 years in prison for charges including participating in fraud, illegal appropriation, and transferring assets. Her life was utterly destroyed in what should have been her prime. She will pay a heavy price for her greed, selfishness, and foolishness behind the cold, hard bars of a prison cell. 11. With my sister in prison, my parents' hope for a secure retirement has been utterly shattered. The son-in-law they were so proud of is gone. They had lost one of their golden grandsons, who was supposed to bring honor to the family. And the other 2 had cut ties with them. Even their most accomplished daughter, their pride and joy, had become a prisoner and the laughingstock of the entire clan. Overnight, they seemed to have aged 20 years. The day after the verdict was handed down, they showed up at my door. The moment she saw me, my mother dropped to her knees with a thud right in front of me. Sobbing uncontrollably, she began slapping her own face with brutal force. Zoe, it was my fault. I was blind. I was a complete and utter fool. Please forgive me, sweetheart. I know I was wrong. My father stood there too, tears streaming down his aged face, his back hunched over. Zoe, we're old now, we're counting on you from now on. Your sister, she brought it on herself, but we're your real parents, you can't just abandon us. They began to prattle on, recounting every little kindness they had shown me in my childhood. Trying to use the family bond they themselves had shattered long ago to guilt-trip me, I watched them in silence. I watched as they wept and wailed in repentance. What came to my mind, however, was my mother's scornful look in the hospital. It was that one line, "I think you're just jealous." It was the stinging slap, the one that landed hard across my face. It was their gaze, that icy, contemptuous look they gave me when I was most alone and helpless. What you were counting on, it was never me. I cut in coldly, interrupting their little performance. All you ever counted on was Maya, Ethan's money, and the Zhou family's wealth. Now that your golden goose is gone, you suddenly remember the daughter you threw out. I took all the cash from my wallet, about 20,000, and placed it on the table in front of them. This is the last time I'm giving you money. From now on, you're on your own. My mother's sobs hitched when she saw the money, then she let out a shriek. 20,000. Is that all? You're treating us like beggars. Zoe, now that you've made it big and have money, you think you can just disown your own parents. I'll sue you. I'll sue you for being an ungrateful child. My father pointed a trembling finger at me, shaking with rage. You heartless monster, you'll get what's coming to you. I laughed. I walked to the door, opened it, and gestured for them to leave. From the moment you slapped me for Maya's lie, our connection was severed. I slammed the door shut, shutting out their cries, curses, and tantrums on the other side. Finally, my world fell silent. 12. The dust has settled, and everything has returned to calm. Ethan finalized his divorce and was granted custody of his 2 biological sons. He is profoundly grateful to me. Our relationship has transformed from awkward relatives into the most solid of allies and family. A bond that transcends mere kinship. I became the godmother to my 2 adorable nephews. They are the most blameless souls caught in this turmoil, and now, they are the softest spot in my heart. Ethan returned the 200,000 wedding gift I had given him, with interest. I didn't accept it. With that money, plus an additional sum Ethan contributed later, I established an educational trust fund for the 2 children. I hope their future lives will be free from shadows and filled with sunshine. As for that innocent, 3rd child, the baby of Maya and Kai, in the end, Ethan's heart softened. He didn't turn a blind eye. Instead, through a welfare agency, he found the child a loving, affluent family who were unable to have children of their own and were willing to adopt him. He also anonymously donated a large sum of money to the orphanage where the child lived. I hope that child will be treated well in their new family and have a bright future, one completely different from that of their criminal parents. One weekend, a year later, Ethan and I were having a picnic on the park lawn with our 2 little ones, who were already toddling around. The sun is warm, and the breeze is gentle. The 2 little ones, dressed in matching outfits, giggled with delight, like a pair of happy little angels. Ethan looked at me, his eyes filled with a sincerity and gratitude I had never seen before. Zoe, without you, the 3 of us, father and sons, would still be living a life of immense lies and danger, with a future too bleak to contemplate. From now on, this is your home. I smiled, a genuine smile born of pure relief and happiness. I was no longer Zoe, the good sister, held hostage by her family and emotionally blackmailed. I was just Zoe, an independent woman who lives for herself and for protecting those worth protecting. Later, I would occasionally hear news about my parents. They moved back to their old home in the countryside, getting by on a meager pension, because of the Maya situation. They couldn't hold their heads up among relatives and neighbors. They often got into arguments, complaining about their unfilial daughter and their own wretched fate. But all of that has nothing to do with me anymore. I looked up at the clear blue sky and the kite dancing in the wind in the distance, taking a deep breath. The air was filled with the scent of freedom and hope. My life is just beginning. Story 2. After my grandfather passed away, he left me and my brother some inheritance. After the college entrance exam, I successfully inherited a house and 200,000 yuan left by my grandfather. I never expected my sister-in-law to cause a commotion upon finding out. She forced me to run away from home and hide in the house my grandfather gave me. The end of the high-temperature era arrived quietly. I was hiding in the house, living comfortably. But I received a rescue call from my sister-in-law. My husband and your nephew are almost out of time. Please save us, I pouted. I'm in the countryside, just a few dozen kilometers away. Come here quickly. After the college entrance exam, I turned 18. According to my grandfather's will, after completing the compulsory education, I could inherit his property. I successfully inherited the house and 200,000 yuan left by my grandfather. I was so happy despite the high temperature in June that I bought a lot of ingredients and made lunch by myself at home. I was full of enthusiasm and made a big meal. However, when my sister-in-law heard this news, "No, I don't agree that Lark should get a house. What does a girl need a house and so much money for?" My sister-in-law shouted loudly without caring about her image. After my sister-in-law found out that my grandfather left me a house and $25, she became very excited. My sister-in-law's eyes sparkled with greed. "Lark, you're still in school, you don't need so much money and a house. Here. Transfer the house to me and send the money to my bank account." I couldn't help but feel something was wrong with what I was hearing. 1. Sister-in-law, this is my grandfather's inheritance. Why should I give it to you? Sister-in-law, I am your sister-in-law, and I married into your family, so I am your elder. Besides, the eldest sister is like a mother, and we are all family. It's the same whether you give it to me or to you. When I heard this absurd statement, I looked at my parents who had just said this. My parents didn't expect that my sister-in-law would be so greedy and obvious about it. My father frowned and said, "Isolde, this is what the grandfather left for his granddaughter. This is Lark's due." My mother also looked disapproving. My sister-in-law's eyes flickered. Grandfather was biased. Why does Lark have it, but not Griffin? Griffin, who was mentioned, looked embarrassed. My father sighed, feeling very helpless towards this daughter-in-law. Of course Griffin has it too, the same as Lark's. Your wedding house is the property the grandfather left for him. He got married earlier, and the 3 golds you received were also prepared by the grandfather. My sister-in-law immediately exploded, grabbing Griffin's ear. "Griffin, how could you hide 20,000 from me?" Griffin begged for mercy and promised to transfer the money to his wife's bank account right away, which made her stop. My sister-in-law touched her belly and smiled. "You're smart to realize that, otherwise, I would have beaten your son." The news of the sister-in-law's pregnancy eased the tense atmosphere. Seeing her family's happy faces, the sister-in-law became even more proud. "Lark, how about this? I don't like it, but you can give it to your nephew. It's also a kind gesture from you as an aunt. You're already a grown girl. Be mature and generous. A girl will eventually get married and become a stranger in the end, so don't let other families take advantage of our family's wealth. Your nephew hasn't been born yet, but he will be happy knowing he has an aunt who loves him so much. Just give me the house and the money first. I'll keep them for him. Get it transferred tomorrow." After saying that, the sister-in-law tried to show affection by grabbing my hand. I moved my hand away so she couldn't grab it. The sister-in-law's face froze when she failed to catch my hand. "Auntie, what Grandpa gave me is mine. I don't agree to give it to the nephew. When the nephew is born, I will prepare a gift for him, but it will definitely not be this. I'm not a stranger. Even if I get married, I'm still my parents' daughter. And your sister." No wonder the usually mischievous sister-in-law is now daring to make such a big demand. Although the sister-in-law usually likes to take advantage and take things from the family to support her own family, she never dared to be so excessive and showy before. It's because she's pregnant. She thinks she has hold of the family's lifeline. The sister-in-law's face turned dark. She clutched her stomach and said it hurt, then glared at my brother. My brother is afraid of his wife. He hesitated for a moment, then looked at his wife's face. "Lark, just listen to your sister-in-law. She's just pregnant, don't cause trouble, just give her the things first, and make it up to you later." I was stunned. The inheritance left by the grandfather was a sign of love for the grandchildren. What belonged to him was already in his pocket. Now, just because the sister-in-law made a fuss, my brother chose to follow her wishes and asked me to make a compromise. I suddenly realized that the older brother now is no longer the one who used to protect me as a child. I insisted on refusing, but my sister-in-law wouldn't let up, determined to make me agree today. My parents tried to mediate from the side, but it didn't work. As soon as someone raised their voice, she would cover her stomach and bring up the child. She said that the 2 elders didn't care about the eldest son, nor about the grandchild, and that they were biased. She said we should get rid of the child. I couldn't stand it anymore and stood up, kicking the chair aside to leave. My sister-in-law became furious and stood up abruptly, catching me off guard. She pushed me forward with all her strength. My head hit the wall, causing a sharp pain and a strong dizziness. My vision went black, and after shaking my head, It got even worse. I pointed at my sister-in-law wanting to curse her, but then I fainted. I had a dream. In the dream, my sister-in-law kept causing trouble, making the whole family restless. 2. I will not give in until I am forced to. My brother often looked at me with a reproachful gaze, as if everyone's unhappiness was my fault. My parents were caught in the middle, exhausted and distressed. I couldn't bear to see my parents getting more and more exhausted, so I gave in to my sister-in-law, but she immediately gave the house and money to her brother. She continued to act tyrannically at home, making me and my parents work like servants to take care of her during her pregnancy, constantly draining our family's resources to support her family. She even boasted about wanting to send me to her brother as his wife. Of course, I refused, but my brother supported her and sent me to her family to please her mother-in-law and brother-in-law. It made my parents so angry that they died. The dream finally froze on my sister-in-law's smug face. I woke up in my own room. I pressed my head, which was throbbing with pain, and felt a big bump right in the center of my forehead. I became a bullhorn immortal. My hands were sticky, coated with medicine. I thought about the dream I just had, which was a nightmare. I shivered. A chill ran up from my feet and made my skin goosebump. It made my dazed mind a bit clearer. However, reality is always the opposite of dreams. For example, I would never compromise with my sister-in-law, transfer my grandfather's love to others. Thinking of the cute old man, I couldn't help but sigh. The family head who always thought about the descendants is the person who loves me the most. I quietly got up and, as I passed by my brother and sister-in-law's room, I looked through the slightly open door. I heard my sister-in-law's voice on the phone. "Mom, don't worry, I will definitely take over Lark's house and money." If it wasn't for today when I heard her parents say that Griffin's family actually gave the inheritance to a burden. "Don't worry. I will give everything to my younger brother. The house will be his wedding house, and 20,000 will be for him to buy a car, the dowry for marrying a wife. There will be one. I won't let my brother not be able to marry. At the worst, I can marry Lark to him, which will save the dowry money. I will gradually get all the money from Griffin's family. Now that I'm pregnant, I'm the one in charge. Whatever I say goes." After saying that, she elbowed her brother who was sitting next to her. "You say, right?" My brother nodded and smiled. "Yes, Your Majesty." My sister-in-law kissed my brother's face several times in satisfaction. The buzzing air conditioner masked our noise. I quietly stepped back and wandered around the house quietly. I picked up my already packed luggage. I had planned to move out today, but I didn't expect my sister-in-law to cause trouble. I met my parents on the way out. My parents had already bought my favorite, crayfish. No wonder my parents weren't by my side when I woke up. They had gone to buy crayfish to cheer me up. I didn't have time to think about it. I quickly told my parents to take the valuable items and ran away with them. After leaving the house, the scorching heat hit us directly. We were immediately drenched in sweat. The sun in the late afternoon was still so scorching. The frequent red high-temperature warnings on my phone indicated the strange weather this year. I took my parents straight to the house my grandfather left me. It's on the 28th floor of a high-rise in Building 3 of a luxury community. The facilities are no worse than the current community where I live. On the way, I briefly told my parents what I overheard. My parents immediately became so angry their faces turned red. When my sister-in-law married into our family, she asked for 388,000 yuan in bride price and a house. Her dowry was just 2 thin blankets. My parents were understanding of my sister-in-law's lack of security, and they respected her opinion on major and minor matters. They turned a blind eye to her helping her parents. As long as my brother and sister-in-law had a good life, I didn't expect that I would have actually fed her appetite and set my own plan in motion. My own older brother not only knew about it but directly approved of his wife's actions. I stopped my parents from going back to confront Griffin and Isolde. I looked into my parents' eyes and seriously told them that I had heard the scheming of the sister-in-law that I had seen in my dream. In my dream, I also saw this unusual weather this year, and this strange heat that I didn't know how long it would last. Now it's just the beginning of the heat, and it's already unbearable for everyone. In the future, the temperature will rise to the point where the sun might cook people. At that time, everyone's living space and resources will be reduced. At that time, it will be a test of human nature set by nature. Seeing my determined eyes, my parents chose to believe me. I was moved and hugged them, crying. The terrible scene in my dream I won't let become reality. Although I now have a concussion from hitting my head on the wall, feeling both pain and dizziness, I still choose to stock up on supplies as soon as possible. after a brief discussion with my parents. We went our separate ways. 3. Taking advantage of the cover of night. I stock up on supplies in large quantities. First and foremost, food. Actually, I had planned to stay at home and take a 3-month break after the college entrance exam. I also bought a lot of food and supplies at home. However, if I have to stay in a closed environment to avoid the high temperature, this amount of stock is far from enough. As someone who is a shut-in, having a private room where I can fully express my shut-in nature would be so pleasant. Since my brother and sister-in-law got married, I have felt a bit uncomfortable staying in that house. I can feel the attitude of my sister-in-law towards me, the occasional cold looks, and the way she watches me when I eat or use things, as if she were guarding against a thief. I lived in a dorm during high school, and I only went back home on weekends. I was being watched so closely by my sister-in-law, and after I finish the college entrance exam, I will be at home, which will be even more uncomfortable, not to mention the dream I had after hitting my head, which was a warning to me. Although a dream is absurd, my heart is pounding and I feel very uneasy. I have a bad feeling. The arrival of night did not bring much drop in temperature. Instead, the air made my chest feel stuffy, as if I were in a glass case under the scorching sun. I bought a lot of things to bring home, and the supermarket staff wanted to help me deliver them to the door, but I refused. Be cautious, and now I am like a taut string. I don't trust anyone. My parents and I returned home in staggered times. Everyone brought back several big bags, and we were all out of breath carrying them. Fortunately, there are few residents moving into this building, and there was no one moving around at night. We also carried back 2 refrigerators for freezing food. Then we did a quick tidy up and counted the items. The quantity of rice, flour, oil, and dry goods is enough for us to eat for several months, but we don't know how long the abnormal high temperature will last. We decided to stock up a bit more, while people can still tolerate the outside temperature, and plan to go shopping again tomorrow. In the high temperature, the most important thing is water resources. My mother is in charge of continuing to purchase food, while I went to purchase water and water storage containers. My father is in charge of strengthening the house's security measures, including sun protection, power generation, and structural strength. To be honest, having the house on the top floor of a high-rise isn't a good thing. First of all, the house is directly exposed to the sun, so it will definitely be even hotter. Fortunately, the house's decoration is all done according to my preferences. I am afraid of cold and heat, but I still like being on a high floor and enjoy the feeling of looking down from above. The house's exterior uses insulating materials to effectively reduce the heat from high temperatures. The next day early in the morning, before shopping, I contacted the workers to install 2 anti-theft iron doors and various windows and doors with anti-theft nets, as well as high-altitude sunshade nets. I paid a considerable amount of labor fee by paying extra. The workers' speed increased by more than a little. My father has some knowledge of electrical appliances, so I didn't hire anyone, and he personally installed the solar panels. I installed 3 latest version solar power generators, which have noise reduction and high-performance power generation. The high temperature comes from the sun, and with the sun, there's no worry about no electricity. I bought 20 boxes, each containing 2 large 5L barrels of mineral water. With a trolley and my father's help, I transported 5 boxes per trip, moving them up the stairs as quickly as possible. I bought 3 children's inflatable swimming pools, which are foldable and easy to transport. The house is 4 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. The generator occupies one of the living rooms facing the sun, and another room is used for water storage. When I got home, I immediately inflated the 3 inflatable swimming pools and filled them up. They are used for daily water, and can also be used for drinking when necessary. High temperature will accelerate water evaporation. There may be a water shortage later. A person can survive more than a week without food, but will die within 3 days without water. The phone keeps receiving warning SMS from the government. Warning Center. The meteorological station continues to issue a red heat warning. The temperature today has broken the highest temperature in a century. The national temperature will continue to rise, and there is an abnormal heat weather. Please the public to be vigilant. The social media platforms are in an uproar. Netizens are arguing online, all criticizing this abnormal high-temperature weather. More netizens have posted their own sunburn marks, saying that an egg hit the floor would cook in a short time. Many netizens have noticed my anonymous post using a virtual address, and they have received a lot of abuse, accusing me of spreading conspiracy theories, while some people have decided to stock up on supplies for emergencies. Of course, there are also many optimistic people still watching and waiting, until news of people dying from the high temperature started to come in one by one. When I tried to go out again, I could not withstand the temperature like a baked earth outside. The hands wrapped tightly felt the heat as soon as they were extended, and it was not even a few seconds before the skin was sunburned. Intense sunlight made people unable to open their eyes. The obviously became chaotic. It should have been the realization of the high temperature. Many people rushed into the supermarket under the scorching sun. They rushed to, and the supermarket items were quickly cleared out, so the three of us gave up going out, locked the doors and windows, and stayed at home, roughly counting the supplies. My mother mainly took care of food items, and she was more careful and meticulous. We bought a total of 10 bags of rice and 5 bags of flour, each bag weighing 30 caddies. Additionally, 20 caddies each of various grains and legumes, and 20 caddies each of walnuts, goji berries, red dates, agaric, longan, and lotus seeds. There were also long shelf-life dry rations, 10 boxes of noodles, vermicelli, instant noodles, and laoshifeng, a type of spicy noodle dish, 10 boxes of compressed biscuits, and 10 barrels of cooking oil. These staples would be enough for the three of us for several years. Also, various seasonings and sauces including salt, oyster sauce, soy sauce, butter, sugar, and yeast powder, each 50 portions. Also bought several bags of milk powder, which have a longer shelf life compared to boxed ones, and require less storage space. Bought 20 caddies of pork, 20 caddies of beef, 20 caddies of mutton, 25 caddies each of shrimp and fish, 20 caddies of chicken breast, and 30 trays of eggs. These meats filled the freezer completely. Various vegetables were also blanched and frozen. A portion was left refrigerated for immediate consumption. There are also some cured meats such as cured pork, cured sausage, and cured duck legs. They are easier to store and just need to be hung in a ventilated place. Also, daily necessities such as tissues, wet wipes, sanitary napkins, which are consumed in large quantities. Each bought 200 portions, enough for use. Shampoo, body wash, soap, and laundry powder were also purchased, but they are not essential in the high temperature. Just having water to drink is already a blessing. We didn't even think about growing some vegetables or raising some chickens and ducks. We don't have the experience, and it would be time-consuming and laborious. It would also cause bad smells, waste grain and water, so it's not advisable. There are also various medicines such as ibuprofen, cold medicine, allergy medicine, Huxiangzhengqi water for heat relief, common antibiotics, etc. A lot of medicines, both oral and topical, were bought. Also various vitamins. In the days without green food, they are relied upon to meet the body's needs. My father is in charge of all the hardware, which was well prepared. I filled all the containers in the house with water. Looking at the door that was locked 3 times, my heart felt a little more at ease. It took us 2 days to prepare for this, and my phone was showing a single-digit balance, but I didn't pay much attention. In the face of life, anything else is just a worldly possession. The most common cicada sounds in summer disappeared at some point. Under the scorching sun, there was no sign of life outside. People had taken shelter, and birds and insects had also vanished completely. All sounds were gone, even the wind had stopped. I was hammering my sore shoulders, exhausted from moving supplies. Fortunately, the country had already noticed the abnormal weather and emphasized the importance of electricity on the official social platform. It was emphasized that the national government values the people and has taken action to protect the power grid and ensure normal electricity supply. This is good news, but I saw my parents' anxious expressions. I guessed they were worried about their son, for I had previously told them not to contact Griffin and Isolde. My parents have always loved me, and they still follow my wishes now. I know they have doubts about my dream, but they still choose to believe in me and cooperate with me. My parents and I have been away from home for many days, and we haven't contacted my brother and sister-in-law, and my brother hasn't called my parents at all. We have already understood Isolde's intentions, but my brother's attitude still doesn't give up. I took my parents and turned on the home surveillance system. This surveillance system has been installed for a long time, and everyone had forgotten about its existence. I dug it up from my distant memories. This is when it comes in handy. In the surveillance, it's not only my brother Griffin and Isolde, but also Isolde's parents, and her big fat brother are all in my house. Isolde's parents are staying in my parents' room, and her big fat brother Blaze even came out of my room. My parents saw the look of disbelief and anger on each other's faces. looking at my sister-in-law Isolde sitting on the sofa with her not showing belly, looking proud. It was obviously someone's arrangement. I fiddled around a bit, and surprisingly, I managed to turn on the surveillance sound. My sister-in-law Isolde's voice came out. Those two old people, they said they would transfer 200,000 to me. Why haven't they transferred it yet? Following Lark out. Not under my eyes. Don't think you can get away with it, do you? You wouldn't dare to mess with me, or I'll make sure your family is wiped out. A few people laughed. Their laughter was sharp and unpleasant. Upon hearing this, I was stunned, and looked at my parents with an inquisitive look in my eyes. My parents could understand my confusion, and they nodded in agreement. Isolde failed to seize my house and money, and then pushed me unconscious. But she was not aggressive anymore. It was because my parents had promised to give her 200,000 as compensation. Continuing to watch the surveillance footage, my brother seemed to be cooking in the kitchen, busy and happy, sweating from the heat. The kitchen was not soundproof, and Griffin must have heard Isolde's slander against my parents, but he didn't say a word in defense of my parents. Isolde was huddled with her in-laws, whispering to each other, "This terrible weather, it's so hot," they complained with their mouths. But they were enjoying the air conditioning. We're lucky we had enough people to buy a lot of good things beforehand. Thank goodness Old Death and the little brat have left, otherwise we would have had to waste our food on them. This statement received much agreement, and everyone nodded in approval. Better to die outside. Isolde became more and more excited as she spoke. What made the parents heartbroken was that my brother was also among those who nodded. Griffin bowed and scraped to serve Isolde's family, and he was so delighted when his mother-in-law praised him that he seemed to be about to fly to heaven. He willingly and happily did whatever he was told. You know, Griffin had never touched a cooking pot in his life, and he had never cooked a meal for his parents, not even a bowl of noodles. Suddenly, the lights in the house flickered, and in the next moment, the air conditioning stopped working as if it couldn't take it anymore. What's going on? Is it a power outage? How can we live in this scorching heat with the air conditioning broken? Everyone in the house was sweating and panicking. They checked every room, but none of the air conditioners were working. Isolde called out to Griffin, "Honey, the air conditioners aren't working. Is it a power outage? Go get someone to fix it." Griffin immediately took off his apron and wiped the sweat from Isolde's face with concern. "I'll go check it." Griffin stepped out of the house but was hit back by the scorching heat outside. "It's too hot outside. Can't go out." Griffin was bombarded with comments from Isolde's family, but the outside temperature was so high that he felt like his skin would be scorched in a moment. He called several repair technicians, but they all refused to come due to the extreme heat. Griffin got so angry that he swore. He especially couldn't stand the look of contempt in his brother-in-law Blaze's eyes. Plus, Isolde was urging him. 5. With a determined bite, he decided to check and repair the air conditioning circuit himself. But because he wasn't familiar with the wiring, he successfully cut off the entire house's electricity. The surveillance system went dark and lost the video feed. I was regretting that I couldn't see their subsequent fate. My mother brought the last dish of food. "Come eat." My father shook his head next to me, as if also regretting. In the end times, life and death are determined by fate. I understood. My parents had given up on my older brother. His blind indulgence of his wife was typical. Having forgotten his mother for his wife, my mother cooked a big table of dishes: braised beef, braised pork trotters, stir-fried seasonal vegetables, tomato and egg soup, with a fragrant aroma. I drooled and kept praising. My parents gently watched me eat greedily. "Eat slowly. No one is going to take it." I couldn't help but smile. "I love you so much, Mom and Dad." With the start of the high temperature, the outside world became chaotic. The fact that we can have hot meals and have our family by our side is much better than the situation we were in the dream. Yes, I didn't tell my parents. The experiences we had in the dream were far more complicated than what I had briefly told them before. In fact, compared to a dream, I feel like I actually went through it myself. It was so real and painful. Maybe it could be called a rebirth. In the dream, we didn't stock up on supplies during the heat. Isolde also has her eyes on my family's property. She called in relatives to take over my house together. I didn't expect the heat to last so long. Soon, there was no food left at home. Isolde forced my family members one by one to go out and find food. Under such circumstances, her brother Blaze didn't forget to look for a wife. Isolde naturally fulfilled her brother's request, making my brother bow his head and give me to Blaze. In the end times, There was little food and grain. My parents were driven to death by the fact that more grain was given to their relatives, and they were also sunburned and became weak. Later, unable to bear the humiliation, I took the opportunity to run away from home and died of heat. After hitting my head, I dreamed of all this. 6. The pain is deep in my bones. Isolde scheming, the arrival of the high temperature, all of this is real. I hate them with all my heart. I wish I could cut them down with a knife. But that would be too merciful for them. I want them to feel the pain of dying from dehydration due to the heat, so I gave them a gift before leaving home. People need to learn in order to have the ability to repair, but the ability to destroy is innate. It's not hard to destroy a few air conditioners, or break the windows. I didn't expect Griffin to be so effective. He directly burned out the electrical box. Although the government and community have repeatedly advised against using high-power electrical appliances, however, under the scorching heat, everyone was suspicious of each other. Everyone was thinking, if I turn it off, you will secretly turn it on again. Why should you be comfortable while I am suffering from the heat? That's a big loss. Everyone tacitly continued to use high-power air conditioners. Under the hum of the air conditioners, the power station soon exceeded the maximum power limit, and the whole city went dark. Without power, and without the government's broadcast to restrict and deter, people became even more restless. In the apocalyptic heat, everyone was preoccupied with their own survival. Not long after, people who had run out of food began to cross the moral line, with the weak signal. I kept browsing the information shared by panicking netizens. Strong men gathered in groups of 3 or 5, wrapped up tightly, and moved under the cover of night, prying open people's homes and acting recklessly. Murder and robbery. The evil of human nature is no longer concealed or restrained. In order not to let others notice that my air conditioner outdoor unit is running, thus knowing that someone is living in my house, we also gave up the idea of turning on the air conditioner. We only let the solar generator supply power to the 2 large ice chests, although our house doors and windows were tightly closed, preventing outside hot air from entering. But because it's the top floor, normal sun exposure has some effect with the heat insulation material. However, abnormal sun exposure still made our house extremely hot, but in an emergency, this is already the best shelter. Ordinary fans and manual fan swinging no longer work. The air they blow out is just hot air. My mom put bottles of water into the ice chest to freeze, then each of us held a bottle of frozen water to cool down. Compared to the outside world, we are already very lucky with our preparation. I have a lot of TV series and movies to keep me entertained during my free time. Sometimes I play xiangqi with my father. My mother can't sit still and wants to dance in the square despite the high temperature. I didn't expect that after dancing around a bit, she suddenly collapsed. My father and I were so scared that we almost jumped up. We rushed to help her, and when we checked, she had a heat stroke. I gave her 2 bottles of Huxiangzhengqi water, which was both funny and worrying, so we gave up, and focused on researching various foods, making the monotonous meals more interesting. There is a lot of supplies, so much that we can't finish them all, but eating the same few things every day can get very boring. That day, when I turned on the monitor, I found that Isolde's place had restored power, but the water was cut off. But that's all that can be used, even if the pots and pans are all there. Without food, you can't cook, plus, the window can't be closed, and hot air keeps circulating in. After a few days, everyone was lying on the floor, leaning against the tiles, feeling a little cool, turning over now and then, like a pancake. Isolde called her family over, plus Griffin and herself, making 5 people, with more people. The consumption increases, plus, Isolde has become accustomed to my house's conditions, and she's using her pregnancy to be picky. Now she splits it into 2 meals for 1 person, but she still doesn't eat this and doesn't eat that, being picky about the noodles. But her parents are not my parents, and they are willing to indulge her. Her mother slapped her, eat it or not, if you don't eat, I'll give it to your brother. Isolde covered her face and didn't even dare to say a word to her mother. Blaise was delighted, eating 3 portions by himself. Griffin didn't want his wife to starve, so he gave his food to Isolde. Isolde's food was taken again and given to her brother. Isolde didn't say anything about getting it back. Griffin, who had been starved for a few meals, had a twisted expression for a moment. Everyone was worn down, looking pale and exhausted, until there was only a little food left. Griffin finally had a conflict with Blaise. Blaise wanted to take everything. Griffin, who had been hungry for several days, of course wouldn't agree. The 2 of them fought. Isolde's family took sides, outnumbered. Griffin was no match for Isolde's family, and was eventually beaten to the point of being unable to get up, and passed out. Isolde, with a cold face, said, "Husband, you're being too stingy. What's wrong with my brother eating a few more bites?" Even though she herself was also extremely hungry, her 2-month pregnant belly was visibly showing. She herself had no energy intake, and there was also someone inside her who was constantly drawing on her nutrients. She touched her stomach, her eyes showing a look of regret. His father didn't hide from Griffin whether he was awake or not. "Let him go out to find food when he wakes up. There's no food left at home. If we don't find any, we'll all starve to death." No matter how Griffin struggled, he was eventually forced out by the threat of Isolde's child in her belly. Isolde tried to stop her, but her mother scolded her, saying she was trying to kill her parents and brother. 7. "If you block him again, we'll all go together." Isolde retreated, valuing her own life more, but Griffin somehow found a way and actually brought back some food, holding a bag of bloody meat. When Isolde let him in, she was scared by Griffin's appearance. Griffin can't withstand the high temperature outside and is severely sunburned, with his skin peeling to reveal pinkish flesh. His expression looked very painful, as if he was enduring something. After pulling Isolde back to the room, his expression became twisted and crazy. A scream was heard from behind the closed door of the house. In the sweltering house, the air was thick and stagnant. Her parents and brother, who were full and satisfied, didn't look at her once. Isolde had blood underneath her, a bruise on her lips, slow movements, messy hair, and a vacant expression. Isolde's family, driven by hunger, had increasingly fierce eyes. They occasionally glanced at Griffin and Isolde. They were secretly planning something, and would erupt with just the right opportunity. I was enjoying the cold drink my mom made, very comfortable. They had already been blocked and couldn't reach us. I kindly took her out of the blacklist. I took a photo and sent it to her. "This is so cold it hurts my teeth," but throwing it away would be a waste. A second later, Isolde's phone rang non-stop, in the surveillance footage. Isolde gritted her teeth and cursed at the phone. "You bitch, I thought you were already dead. I didn't expect you to be hiding and eating well." I smiled and answered the call, and Isolde's voice instantly became gentle. "My dear, my son and I are almost out of time. Please save us." I pouted. "I'm just in the countryside, only dozens of kilometers away. Come quickly." Isolde didn't respond. It looked like she didn't believe me. I continued to add fuel. "I have a lot of food stored. More than I can eat. There's also water. It's frozen and can cool you down in the summer." After saying that, I hung up the phone. I didn't answer when Isolde called again. Under the guidance of her cunning parents, Isolde demanded to see the food supply first. I edited 2 pictures, pasted the supplies I found online into the house in my hometown, and sent them to Isolde. Griffin was originally doubting that I might be hiding in the house my grandfather left me, but when they saw the pictures I sent, Isolde's family believed it without any doubt. Plus, they had their electricity cut off, and Isolde's group was at their last resort. After discussing, they were dazzled by the supplies in the whole house. Their eyes were glowing green, like wolves seeing their prey. They couldn't wait to pounce on me and tear my flesh. They planned to take a desperate risk, and once they reached me, they would kill me for revenge and take my supplies for themselves. How can I worry about starving again? They all, wrapped up tightly to protect themselves from the sun, rushed out of the house and got into a scorching car. During these days of water and power outages, the high temperature continued. There even came a time when it was 24 hours of direct sunlight, and the night disappeared. We reduced our activities and minimized our energy consumption. I have tried to tell my parents about my dream and my story of rebirth in a gentle and slow way. My parents, with red eyes and tears, hugged me tightly, showing their concern. "We support you, no matter what," they said. The last bit of family bond with Griffin disappeared. It started when Griffin stood by Isolde's side and allowed her to insult and hurt us. Griffin was no longer our family member. In this time of chaos, when everyone was preoccupied with their own survival, there were many people who had run out of supplies and tried to challenge the scorching sun to find some supplies to keep them alive. But most of them died from the heat outdoors. Their bodies lost all moisture and became human dry bones. 8. Barely naked, lying outdoors, their hands, however, stubbornly reached towards the direction of the supermarket. The first time we saw it, we couldn't bear to look, but we were helpless. The residential area, which had long been without water and electricity, had become a living hell, and the group of people wandering outside, trying to reach their hometown 50 kilometers away. Isolde lost her child on the way, and it cost her half her life, loss of body fluids. The heat led to an increasingly irritable mental state, thirsty to the point of desperation. Blaze turned to those around him first, but Griffin and he were both strong men. Griffin protected Isolde, and Blaze's attempt failed. He turned his attention to Isolde's parents. He slashed her throat and eagerly began to suck at the wound. Isolde felt sick and vomited repeatedly, but there was no power to resist in the face of violence. Griffin and Isolde were terrified by Blaze's madness. They cowered before Blaze, promising to let him control me and my supplies once he found me. Blaze agreed. When he let his guard down, he was pushed off by the Griffin couple together. The ground about to melt the tires was touching the flesh. A sizzling sound was immediately heard. In agony, Blaze kept rolling, which made the burning more even. Blaze was like a live shrimp on a teppanyaki grill, burning for several minutes but still stubbornly alive. A terrible scream, and he was burned to death. Griffin and Isolde felt a sense of relief, having overcome the psychological intimidation of the demon. Even though the physical pain was unbearable, they felt much lighter. The two crossed the psychological threshold. With fierce eyes, the two agreed that it was because of me that they had turned against each other. They waited until they found me in the countryside, and they wanted me to experience their pain. Hatred kept them going all the way. They walked dozens of miles for a whole 3 days, even when the road was empty. They tried to travel only during the few, pitiful hours of the night. There might also be threats from dangerous people on the way, because they really had no food at all. Every time they wanted to give up and called me, I gave them hope. Cold lamb salad is really delicious. The days in the countryside are too wonderful. The sun protection of the two people was ineffective. Instead, it caused them to get sunburned, and their skin was swollen and blistered. Finally, they arrived, overjoyed. They tumbled out of the car, the peeling skin stuck to the fabric. And when they took it off, they pulled off a layer of skin. It hurt so much that they were drenched in cold sweat, but what greeted them in the old house was a room full of emptiness and desolation. Griffin and Isolde couldn't believe it. Hungry and weak, they risked their lives to walk dozens of kilometers. The suffering they endured on the way, the torment of the high temperature. They thought they were heading to heaven, but instead it was hell. Isolde collapsed and screamed. 9. Griffin had been so hungry for a long time that he had long forgotten the marital bond between Isolde and himself. I always said Lark couldn't be here. You didn't listen, you bastard. You've ruined me. There are dozens of kilometers left to go back, and the long journey is no easy task. The last bit of strength has already been left here. Griffin rushed over and strangled Isolde's neck tightly. Isolde had already suffered a miscarriage, and plus several days without food. Her body was also losing water. In anger and fear, she was strangled to death in no time. Griffin's eyes were bloodshot, and he devoured his beloved woman bit by bit. The feeling of fullness that had been absent for a long time awakened Griffin's lost sanity. Griffin suddenly vomited. No, it's not me, Isolde. I didn't mean to. Griffin was overwhelmed by intense nausea and guilt, and he was terrified, but in a way, the couple was heart to heart in life, and after death, they became one again, right? The black and white surveillance camera in the old house saved my eyes. Gradually, after the country implemented various response measures, the shelter was built, broadcasting region by region to search for survivors. Because my family's supplies were still considerable, relying on solar power generation, and using 2 large water barrels and various containers to store water. Use it sparingly. And when I can't stand it anymore, I just wipe my body. The water used for wiping the body is saved for flushing the toilet, which is more than enough to meet our daily needs. For food, we mostly stockpiled meat without bones, and cooked as much as we needed. To reduce kitchen waste, to avoid wasting water resources, we cook noodles with less broth, and we always finish our meals. After discussing with my parents, we decided to hold our position. We gave up the spot in the shelter to those who needed it more. Gradually, some survivors chose to seek survival. Soon, military personnel came to take them away. They were overjoyed at the chance of survival. In this way, we managed to survive for 2 more months. A sudden heavy rain fell. Rainwater evaporates instantly upon touching the scorching earth. The earth, which had been thirsty for 3 months, greedily drank in the rain. But this is not good news for people. The evaporating water vapor rises with high temperature. The whole world was like a steamer. This is not a temperature humans can endure. In a panic, my parents and I threw the meat from the freezer outside. I myself crawled into the freezer. I hoped to survive this ordeal this way. I didn't know how long I had been hiding in the freezer. The refrigerator was struggling to cool with a buzzing sound, but later the temperature of the air inside the refrigerator kept rising, darkness descended, and daylight rose. My parents woke me up. I didn't know when I had fallen asleep. The moment I climbed out of the refrigerator, my old buddy let out a final hum and completely broke down. The outer shell of the refrigerator had already melted away, the solar generator was already broken, the meat thrown out of the refrigerator had become a pile of mud. Emitting a foul smell, the dry food packaging bags in the room had melted, merging with the food inside. It was no longer edible, the temperature outside remained unchanged, and the death rain did not stop falling. We fell into despair. Send a signal. Survivors, we represent the country to take you home. Drones arrived, bringing the hope of life. My parents and I rekindled hope, smiling at each other. Open the window. Waving a red cloth. We are here. The drone turned around. Its red-lit camera facing us to collect information and responded loudly. Received. Story 2. In a post-apocalyptic world overrun by zombies, the Earth is scarred and battered. Survivors must establish new bases, a task with a slim chance of survival. The leader of our squad, who is also my boyfriend, replaced a girl's name with mine on the original list of candidates for the new base. This girl's cousin possesses spatial abilities and pleaded on her behalf. I, on the other hand, was just an ordinary person with no special abilities. However, on our journey to the new base, I awakened a rare healing ability, highly coveted in these end times. Sue, Chris is in a meeting, said the person in front of me with a smile on his face, polite in demeanor but firm in blocking my way. Let me through, I insisted, pushing past him forcefully. Snap, I pushed the door open, and several people inside turned to look at me. At the center sat a tall, striking man with sharp features and a piercing gaze. He was the man I was looking for. Chris, the leader of our squad, and my boyfriend. Seated around Chris were his trusted deputies and Cecilia, all of whom were ability users. Except for Cecilia, the others were renowned experts at the base. With Chris being among the top ability users in this apocalyptic world, they formed the leadership of our squad. Upon my entrance, their faces showed displeasure. Chris. I couldn't stop Sue. The doorkeeper started explaining. Step outside. Chris interrupted him, then turned to me, frowning. You know the rules. No one is allowed to barge in like this. Go and accept your punishment according to the rules. Chris, you need to explain this to me first, I said, holding up a piece of paper in front of him. He glanced at the content, fell silent for a moment, then spoke. You already know. There's nothing much to explain. It's the squad's decision. I tried to suppress the sadness in my heart, striving to keep my voice steady. Wasn't Hannah's name on the list submitted to the base? Why was it changed to mine? Sue, the squad has the authority to decide who goes to the new base without needing consent from the individuals involved. Chris replied in his usual official tone. So, you put my name on the list without even bothering to inform me, I retorted sarcastically. And I had to find out when the base announced the final list. Chris rubbed his temples, clearly impatient. There's been too much going on recently, with a new wave of zombies approaching and having to arrange missions for the squad. I haven't slept in days. Sue, I forgot to tell you, and that was my mistake. I'll apologize later. For now, can you let me finish this meeting? Before I could respond, Cecilia stood up. Sue, don't make this hard for Chris. It's my fault. What does this have to do with you? I snapped, then remembered, right? Hannah is your cousin, so, you asked Chris to replace her with me. Cecilia bit her lip. He sincerely bowed to me. I'm sorry, it was my plea to Chris that got Hannah to stay. The new base is far from here, and it's a wild area without even a surrounding wall. It's too dangerous. Hannah doesn't have any special abilities. Any slight mishap could cost her life, and I couldn't bear to let her take that risk. But I didn't expect that Chris would replace her with me, right? After all, I am his girlfriend. But did she really not expect it? As the leader of the sky-defying team, Chris is famously selfless. As his girlfriend, I've never received any special treatment in terms of privileges. Instead, to help him build the team and take care of the teammates, I've always sacrificed my own interests. This is something everyone in the sky-defying team knows. The team's rule is that everyone must undertake a mission at least once every 3 days. Hannah always deliberately injures herself to get out of missions. Fortunately, she has her cousin Cecilia to support her with her resources. Otherwise, she would have starved to death long ago. as the captain's girlfriend, I have never taken a single day off. I strictly follow the rules, going on missions every 3 days, sometimes every 2 days, even every day. As long as the team needs me, I do not rest, just once. When I had a severe cold coupled with menstrual pain and felt extremely unwell, I asked Chris for leave for the first time. However, he refused, saying that we shouldn't break the team's rules. Doesn't Hannah break the rules when she takes leave? I argued, feeling wronged. Hannah doesn't go on missions because Cecilia supports her. Chris replied, "You're my boyfriend, you could support me too." I argued loudly, "It's not the same. I am the captain, I have to set an example, Sue. Don't make this difficult for me." "Alright, I understand." That time, I still didn't manage to get the leave. While on a mission, I felt dizzy and rolled down a hillside, ending up unconscious for a whole day. The entire team knows that Chris, as the captain, is the epitome of fairness, never showing favoritism even to his own girlfriend. In fact, he takes extra care of everyone else, but not me, like other teams. The sky-defying team also has more men than women, which is typical in this post-apocalyptic environment. Our team consists of 28 members, only 8 of whom are women. Among these, 5 women have special abilities. The remaining 3, including me, Hannah, and an 8-year-old girl, do not. Those with special abilities are highly sought after, crucial for assessing each team's strength, and cannot simply be sent away. The 8-year-old girl is even less likely to be sent away, simply based on her age. Not to mention her father was a former team member who sacrificed himself during a mission to save everyone else. This leaves only me and Hannah as the choices. We are both ordinary people without any special abilities, setting aside the fact that I am the captain's girlfriend. Just based on capability, I am much stronger than Hannah. 5 years since the apocalypse erupted, Hannah's physical condition hasn't improved at all. In dangerous situations, she only hides behind others, contributing nothing to combat. While I have faced zombies directly time and again, battling bare-handed, I rapidly honed my skills amidst life-threatening dangers. Whether it was strength, speed, or combat techniques, I far surpassed most ordinary people. When carrying out missions outdoors, I could handle zombies on my own unless they swarmed in groups, without needing help from teammates. In terms of strength, I could easily overpower Hannah. Initially, the team decided that Hannah and another male without special abilities would go to the new base. Aside from a little girl, they were the weakest in the team, and no one objected to this decision, except for Cecilia. Cecilia lacked combat abilities, but she possessed a special power. In this post-apocalyptic world, those with special powers held a significant advantage over ordinary people. Striking from another dimension, Cecilia's power was related to spatial manipulation. Although she couldn't fight, her ability was invaluable to the team. Every mission required her presence. She didn't need to fight and was protected by the entire team, as she was responsible for storing all the collected supplies. She was, in essence, the team's treasure. Recently, I heard other teams were trying to lure her with attractive offers at such a crucial time. Cecilia's opinions carried more weight. She suggested keeping Hannah behind, and Chris and the others had to consider her viewpoint seriously since they wanted to ensure she remained with them. Replacing one person was simple, but the only suitable candidate was me, the team leader's girlfriend. Chris, true to expectations and with fairness, nominated me. I looked at Cecilia, who stepped forward in front of Chris, her slender body assuming a protective stance. "Blame me, not Chris," she emphasized once again. Of course I blame you. Did you really not know he would nominate me? Was there anyone else to choose from? Stop playing innocent. I confronted her directly, her adoring and admiring looks at Chris every time she faced him. Did she think she was hiding them well? Whether her suggestion to keep Hannah was out of genuine concern for her cousin or a ploy to replace me, I was too tired to care about her ulterior motives. Regardless, she only made a suggestion. But Chris was the one who made the final decision. He was the one who truly hurt me. Cecilia, rendered speechless by my confrontation, teared up. Chris stepped forward, visibly displeased. "I made this decision. You shouldn't treat Cecilia this way." "Fine, I'll go." As a member of the team, I accept the arrangement. I nodded, delivering the response I'd prepared internally. But let me make it clear. This is the last time I obey the team's orders. Once I get to the new base, I'll voluntarily leave the team and never return. I looked up at Chris. "Let's break up." Chris's expression darkened suddenly. "Sue, you're threatening me." Sensing the tension, The others stood up. Chris, maybe you two should talk first. With that, they left the room, taking a reluctant Cecilia with them. Now, it was just Chris and me. He sighed, his expression softening a bit. Sue, calm down, he said with a gentle tone, for Chris, who has always been prideful and insensitive. This was practically his way of making amends. In the past, if he could have dropped his ego and spoken softly during our disagreements, I would have been overjoyed to reconcile with him, but it was always me who ended up conceding first. It was rare for him to lower his head like this, but now, I no longer cared. After years of revolving my life around him, prioritizing him in everything, sacrificing my own desires, and continuously stepping back, I was exhausted. Both physically and emotionally, the recent personnel change was the last straw. The moment I saw the list, I felt nothing but anger and grievance. I wanted to confront him for an explanation. Just now, seeing his attitude and hearing his words, I truly felt my heart go numb. That's it, I thought. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Cheng Tian, I'm not upset. I'm leaving the day after tomorrow, so I'm saying goodbye now. We may never meet again, I said with a cold smile. As I turned to leave, someone grabbed my arm. In the team, there are only 8 women, and Hannah was the best candidate to leave, but Cecilia insisted on keeping her. I was afraid she would leave the team if I didn't agree. You know how in demand space abilities are, considering all factors. So, after considering everything, I'm the one who has to leave, right? I interrupted him. No need to explain. I accept it. Who else but me should leave? I'm the weak one, aren't I? No one is willing to keep me because of my status, and I have no special abilities. Why shouldn't I be the one to go? Sue, don't talk about yourself like that, Chris said, his face showing sorrow. Although the new base is far from here, there's a supply convoy every 3 months that goes back and forth. They can help send messages, so we can still keep in touch. The plan is to finish the new base within a year, and I will definitely secure a spot for you to return, whatever, I said. Pulling my arm free and walking away. Whether I can come back or not, I no longer care. The next day, I spent packing my bags and handling the departure procedures at the base. I didn't see Chris at all. It was his old habit. He always avoided confrontation. It had always been like this, until I couldn't stand it anymore and would be the first to reach out. Then we would reconcile. This time, he would no longer have the chance to wait for me to soften. On the morning of departure, I carried my luggage and went alone to meet up with the main force from our base, called Tianchang Base, one of the 4 major bases of the post-apocalyptic world. As the population in each base continued to grow and internal supplies reached saturation, the 4 major bases decided to collaborate on developing a new base to relocate surplus personnel and alleviate the pressure on the original bases, taking into account the terrain, location, and distance from the 4 bases. The new base was positioned in the northwest. During the construction and development phase of the new base, each base was required to provide personnel, resources, and materials as initial investments. Tianchang Base allocated these requirements across its 200-plus teams. The teams were reluctant to give up personnel with abilities, so those heading to the new base. Most of us are just ordinary people. The new base is over 500 kilometers away from here. The journey is long and it's uncertain how many waves of zombies we'll encounter along the way. Although the escort team consists of people with special abilities, they are few in number, and overall, our combat strength is low. Whether we can survive to reach the new base is still unknown. Once on the truck, crammed together with dozens of others, I noticed the lifelessness in everyone's faces. Many eyes revealed sorrow. This atmosphere infected me, bringing a feeling of helpless desolation. We are all people who have been abandoned. As the truck slowly started moving, there were a few people scattered by the roadside seeing us off. Scanning around, I did not see any familiar faces. At that moment, my already wounded heart felt completely chilled. Not seeing Chris was expected. Avoiding things is what he does best. Yet, it was still upsetting that no one from the squad came to see me off. Since the formation of the squad, as one of the original members and the captain's girlfriend, I believed I had given my utmost to the team. I did everything I could, taking care of every member. When there were conflicts, I mediated. When supplies were short, I gave up my share. When someone couldn't go on a mission, I stepped in. When there were injuries, I was there to care. When someone was down, I was there to console. I have been true to the squad and to every member, but I overestimated human nature. When the list of people moving to the new base was announced, not a single person spoke up for me. They all remained silent. I don't blame them, as the decision was already made and they were powerless. However, what I didn't expect was that not a single person came to send me off, in this apocalyptic world, where killing is commonplace and looting a daily routine. The cruelest and most selfish aspects of human nature have been fully exposed. I finally understand this now. No loss, just a lesson learned. From now on, I will never give unconditionally to others again. The vehicle traveled for 2 days without incident. Gradually, everyone began to relax, their tense expressions easing. At night, when the convoy stopped to rest and the people with abilities took turns standing guard, I lay listening to the varying snores around me, unable to sleep. All was quiet, making every sound seem louder. Suddenly, I perked up my ears. If I wasn't mistaken, there was a faint, dull noise in the distance. I sat up abruptly, listening intently again, and sure enough, the sound was getting closer. It was the footsteps of zombies. "Captain, there are zombies." I shook the drowsy escort captain. The captain woke up with a start and then regained his composure. "That can't be right. We cleared this route just a few days ago. Zombies shouldn't be here so soon." Everyone else woke up too, fear flashing in their eyes, but upon hearing the captain's words, they dared not let their guard down. "Wait, everyone be quiet." The captain squinted his eyes, trying to discern the sounds in the silent night. "Listen carefully to the sounds around you." "No good, there really are zombies. Let's get moving." The captain stood up, rallying everyone. "Everyone, take your seats. We're leaving now." All the vehicles immediately started and zoomed off, kicking up clouds of dust. However, the scale of this zombie attack was larger than we anticipated. Just as we shook off one group, another confronted us. There was no escaping this time. The vehicles collided head-on with the zombies. It was a dark mass ahead. It was impossible to see just how many zombies there were. People with special abilities grabbed their weapons and leapt into battle. The others, ordinary people, ran about in panic, looking for places to hide. Knowing my own strength, I tightly gripped my broadsword and weaved through the crowd to the edge of the zombie horde, picked out one, and began to fight. With my current abilities, I could only take on one zombie at a time. Just as I was about to defeat the zombie in front of me, a fierce gust of wind swept past my ear. I turned my head to see another, larger zombie swinging its arm towards me, its eyes wide with terror. I closed my eyes, ready to face death. In this moment of imminent death, my heart was incredibly calm. Even a slight smile curled at the corners of my mouth. Dying like this wasn't so bad, free from all burdens, without any regrets. However, after a whole minute with my eyes closed, the expected attack did not come. I opened my eyes to see the zombie in front of me collapsing thunderously. Behind it stood a tall, thin figure, Hugo. My eyes widened with joy, which was evident on my face. "Sue." The young man wiped the blood from his face and gave me a grin. The battle lasted until dawn, and all the zombies were finally eliminated. Yet, we lost nearly 10% of our people. After years of living in a post-apocalyptic world, people had grown accustomed to the loss of life. No one had time to mourn those who had sacrificed themselves, and we prepared to set off again. "Hugo, how did you get here?" Lying in the vehicle, I finally had a moment to speak with him. "I volunteered," he said with a hint of pride. "Luckily, I made it in time." When I had left, Hugo was out on a mission and unaware of the situation. "Are you crazy? People are scrambling to escape, and here you are rushing in." I hit him in frustration, upset that he didn't see the danger. The base rule was that each squad had to send 2 people to the new base, with no upper limit specified. For the base leaders, the more the merrier. They would prefer volunteers. Everyone else was reluctant to leave the well-stocked and well-established Tianchang base. Probably only a fool like Hugo would volunteer. Hugo rested his chin on his knees, looking at me with puppy dog eyes. "My life was saved by Sue, and I don't care. Wherever you go, I'll follow." Hugo, 3 years my junior and just turned 20 this year. I've always treated him like a younger brother. Seeing him look so obedient and eager to please, I was at a loss. Everyone has already arrived. It wouldn't be right to send them away now. I've always known that Hugo was dependent on me, but I never realized the depth of his dependence. He abandoned a comfortable life and disregarded his own safety to be by my side. I saved Hugo 3 years ago when he was still a minor. His face still held the innocence of youth, and his body was frighteningly thin, like a pitiful little kitten. I brought him back to our squad and shared my food with him, slowly nursing him back to health. At that time, our squad had just been formed. Chris didn't say much, but the other members with special abilities were quite critical, feeling that saving this useless person was a waste of resources. 6 months later, Hugo awakened his thunder and lightning abilities, rapidly advancing in combat power. He quickly became one of the strongest in the squad, second only to me, and no one dared to criticize him anymore. Hugo only listened to me. I made him follow the squad's rules. And he did his tasks obediently without overstepping. If Hugo had been at the base when we changed names, things wouldn't have gone so smoothly. I believe he would have stood up for me, causing a scene until he was satisfied. Watching Hugo, who didn't even blink as he stared at me, I felt pleased and reached out to stroke his fluffy hair. He nuzzled my palm like a well-behaved big dog. It was wonderful. My heart, which had grown cold due to recent issues with the squad and Chris, was warmed again by this kid. It turns out, I wasn't abandoned by everyone. Not everyone is opportunistic and cold-hearted. Some do cherish what I've given. He would be grateful, reciprocate, and remember my kindness, even in this desolate and indifferent post-apocalyptic world. There are those who constantly think of me. I am not alone. On our way to the new base, we faced numerous hardships and life-threatening dangers. Thankfully, with Hugo by my side, I managed to escape unscathed time and again. This kid, risking his own safety several times to save me, moved me deeply. We were only a day's journey from our destination, and about half of our original group remained, just when everyone began to feel a sense of relief after surviving so much. We were attacked by a large group of zombies. During the fight, Hugo was surrounded by 5 zombies and used his last bit of strength to take them all down. Just as he was catching his breath, a zombie that had fallen suddenly moved again and lunged at him with its gaping maw. Hugo, I screamed, rushing over to push him out of the way. An excruciating pain spread from my shoulder throughout my body. Hugo pierced the zombie's body with a move, but as it fell, it clung tightly to my shoulder. Sue. Hugo pried the zombie's mouth open and pulled me tightly into his arms trembling. Those bitten by zombies either awaken special abilities, turn into zombies, or are undoubtedly doomed. I could feel my body rapidly deteriorating. Even breathing became difficult. This time, I finally saved you. I managed to smile at him as death approached. Tears fell from Hugo's eyes onto my face, his arms tightening around me as if trying to merge me into his body. He choked up, Sue, you won't die. You must not die. Those who traveled and fought together gradually developed a bond, and as survivors became fewer, everyone cherished this rare connection. Under normal circumstances, if someone were bitten by a zombie and was dying, they would certainly be abandoned by their companions. I was barely hanging on to life, but my teammates didn't abandon me. They cleared a vehicle for me to rest inside. No matter how others tried to persuade him, Hugo insisted on holding me in his arms. Hugo, I said weakly, struggling to get each word out, promise me, you'll keep living well after I'm gone. Hugo shook his head desperately, his voice hoarse. No, Sue, if you die, I won't live either. My life was saved by you. Without you, I would have died long ago. Listen to me, I said with effort. I heard the road to the afterlife is dark and long. You would be scared going alone. I need to be with you, Hugo replied firmly. I wanted to continue persuading him, but I didn't even have the strength to speak. The scene before my eyes began to blur, and I slowly closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, the light was bright and piercing. Wasn't the road to the afterlife supposed to be dark? I wondered, as I recognized the handsome face before me and the scenery moving backward around us. I realized I was not dead. I was still in Hugo's arms, but his eyes were tightly closed. Was he asleep? Struggling out of his embrace, he did not wake up. The next moment, I saw a large pool of blood on the ground and a massive wound on Hugo's wrist. He had used my knife to cut his artery. This fool must have thought I was already dead and actually killed himself to be with me. Hugo, wake up. I desperately slapped his face. Look, I'm not dead. I'm still alive. I felt for his breath. It was faint, but still there. I grabbed Hugo's arm, tearing my clothes to bandage his wound while crying. I prayed internally that he would be all right. He was strong and had abilities. He couldn't die so easily. Just then, Hugo's arm twitched. I stopped what I was doing and carefully looked at him. Hugo's eyelids fluttered, and he opened his eyes. Hugo, oh, thank goodness you're not dead. I cried out loud, embracing him. Hugo opened his mouth, and after a long moment, a weak voice came out. Sue, are you okay? I nodded vigorously. Yes, I came back. a smile appeared on his pale face. But his wound was still bleeding continuously. If this went on, he would bleed out. I removed the bandage, watching helplessly as blood poured from the wound. His face was terribly weak. I took out a new bandage, but my tears wouldn't stop flowing. Hugo, you mustn't die. You have to hold on. We're almost at the new base, where a professional medical team can treat you. Just hang on a little longer. We had lost too much on this journey. All our medical supplies like medications and bandages were already depleted. 2 medical staff members had already sacrificed their lives. As I sobbed, I suddenly noticed that Hugo's wound had stopped bleeding. Before I could even rejoice, I was stunned to see the large gash on his wrist healing rapidly. Inch by inch, the split flesh was merging back together. In just a minute or two, his wound had miraculously healed completely. After wiping off the blood, I saw his skin was seamlessly joined. Without a trace of a scar, Hugo also sat up, staring at his wrist with wide eyes, clearly clueless about what had just happened. At that moment, a tear I hadn't wiped away dripped onto his wrist. Hugo stared intently into my eyes, making me shiver. Before he finally spoke, "What ability have you awakened?" Those bitten by zombies either awaken a power, turn into zombies, or die without question. Clearly, I was the first option. I shook my head honestly. I don't know. Plus, I don't feel any different in my body. Hugo reached out and gently touched my cheek. His fingers were rough, thick with calluses and scars accumulated over the years, yet his touch was tender. Even after he pulled away, I could still feel the warmth on my cheek. For some reason, from the spot he touched, a heat spread across my face. Before I could ponder why, I saw him touch a small wound on his leg with his fingertip. Then, the wound healed at a visible rate. I was stunned. Was it as I thought? His fingertip still had my tear on it, which meant healing. Hugo spoke before I could. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Omnipotent healing. My heart skipped a beat. Had I actually awakened an ability, and a rare healing one at that? Healing abilities were rare in the apocalypse, making up less than 1,000th of all abilities. At the previous Tianchang base, there had only been 3 healers. Healers could activate their ability to secrete droplets from their fingers which could heal wounds. The higher the level of the ability, the better the healing effects of the droplets and the faster the wounds healed. Omnipotent healers were even more formidable, with tears, blood, and even saliva possessing healing properties. The water they secreted from their fingers was several times more effective than that of regular healers. So far, only one omnipotent healer had appeared in the apocalypse. An elderly man guarded day and night by the best abilities from the southwest base. A newly emerged omnipotent healer would be a target for all major bases, potentially causing a whirlwind of strife. I didn't want to be caught in such a vortex. Hugo and I were on the same wavelength. His eyes filled with concern. "Sue, you must never reveal that you're an omnipotent healer to others. Just say you've awakened a healing ability." Even being known just as a healer was rare enough to elevate my status, garner respect, and avoid excessive envy and trouble. I nodded, feeling a genuine sense of joy. Finally, I too was an ability user, a dream I had long harbored. "Try it, see if you can secrete droplets from your fingertips," he patiently instructed me. "All ability users have a force inside them. Give it a try, feel the power, and then harness it." Within just half an hour, I managed to drip water from my fingertips. Using these droplets, I healed all the wounds on both of us. "We're here, we've arrived." Cheers came from the vehicle ahead. I stood up and saw the gates of the new base in front of us. After more than half a month, we had finally reached our destination. Behind us was the lingering light of the sunset, and ahead was the end of our journey. Feeling the breeze by my ears and looking at the people beside me, I felt a profound sense of security. Since the apocalypse began, I had never felt as relaxed as I do now. Upon discovering that I had awakened healing abilities, the leaders of the new base treated me as a distinguished guest and provided me with the best living conditions. Many newly formed squads offered me enticing positions, all of which I declined. At my suggestion, Hugo established a squad and insisted on naming it the Fireworks Squad. Through the trials of our journey, Hugo had greatly increased his strength, and I estimated that he was now no less capable than Chris. Because of our combined strength, the squad quickly recruited over 20 members. The new base was still in its development phase, a time of rebuilding and competition, presenting an excellent opportunity to make a mark. In just over 2 months, the Fireworks Squad became the strongest squad in the new base due to its outstanding combat achievements and significant contributions. During one battle, Hugo unexpectedly awakened a second ability, now possessing both lightning and psychic powers, which immediately propelled him to the top of the combat ranks in the new base. In this post-apocalyptic world, strength was everything. Hugo had now joined the leadership of the new base, gaining influence over its development. I watched him speak at the base-wide mobilization meeting, his presence commanding and composed. Already showing the demeanor of a leader, I couldn't help but feel proud. My little brother had grown up, the once frail sapling had now become a towering tree, providing shelter for others, yet this pride did not last long. The Hugo who returned to my side soon reverted to being that obedient, affectionate, big dog, always eager for affection. For a moment, I wondered if this was the same person I had seen commanding authority on stage, dealing with zombies, infrastructure development, stockpiling resources, establishing laws, recruiting talents. The construction of the new base was hectic and filled with endless tasks, and half a year passed by in a blink. One day, the captain of a convoy returning from Tianchang base sought me out and handed me a letter. Opening it, I realized it was from Chris. It had been so long since I last thought of him. What he called a letter was actually just a single page with a few lines. He asked how I was adjusting to the new base and why I hadn't written to him before. That was all. Typical of Chris, it was already quite something that he had taken the initiative to write to me. I remembered that 3 months ago, a convoy from the new base had returned to Tianchang base. At that time, I hadn't thought of writing to Chris. As far as I was concerned, our relationship had ended. There was no need for further contact. It seemed he didn't see it that way. He thought I was still holding a grudge. He was always confident. I felt it was impossible for me to leave him. I couldn't blame him. Over the years, my unwavering obedience had bolstered his confidence. From our college days, when he was the student council president and I was the secretary, to the apocalyptic times when he became the team leader and I his chief assistant, I had always been by his side, tirelessly devoted and ready to face any hardship for him. He had grown accustomed to my presence and my sacrifices, convinced that no matter what happened, I would never leave him. As I fiddled with the piece of paper, suddenly a hand reached over and snatched it away. "Hugo, you're back," I said with a smile. "I've been waiting for you to have dinner. Let's go." "Okay," he replied, his mood instantly brightening as he crumpled the paper and tossed it into the nearby trash can. Half a year flew by in a blink. One day, I took Hugo to the lake behind our new base. "Look," I crouched down and pointed at the tiny green sprouts emerging from the sandy shore. "Is this?" Hugo pinched a bit of the green, his hand trembling slightly. "Plants," I nodded. In this post-apocalyptic world, some substance had seeped into the soil, making it impossible for plants to grow. Existing vegetation either mutated or died, and the remaining plants dwindled as deserts expanded across the globe. If this continued, in less than 3 years, Earth would become a barren sphere devoid of greenery. To prevent starvation, all major bases were urgently developing nutritional supplements. That's why the usually composed Hugo was so visibly shaken. It had been over 5 years since any new plants had grown on Earth. "Why are there plants here?" Hugo asked, uncertainty in his voice as he looked at my calm face. "Does it have something to do with you?" "Yes," I explained. "I secrete excess water from my fingertips. As you know, our home's pots and bowls are all full." One day, I poured a cup of accumulated water into an empty flower pot on the windowsill. A few days later, I discovered a small sprout in the pot's soil. I began to suspect that the water I secreted had the ability to promote plant growth. To test my theory, I went to the lake behind our base and poured all the healing water I had saved into it. Then used my ability to inject a large amount of water directly from my fingertips into the lake. I don't know why, but unlike other ability users whose water secretion is limited to about a cup a day and requires a day's rest to continue, my fingers were like a faucet, able to spray a large bucketful at a time. Whenever someone in the base was injured, I would deliver healing water for free, claiming it was previously accumulated. What nobody knew was that I had already stored several buckets of healing water at home. Because I provided treatment for free, I was well liked by everyone at the base. I visited the lake daily until, after 2 months, I finally saw the emerging green shoots. I immediately brought Hugo to see them. Healers like me secreted what we called healing water from our fingertips, but I had never heard of healing water that could promote plant growth. Clearly, my healing water was different from others. I looked up at Hugo. His face did not show joy, but worry. "Sue, this matter is of great importance. Let's keep it quiet for now." Hugo pursed his lips, his gaze fixed on me. He was currently vying for leadership over a new base with another person. If we make this public, we'll have a definite advantage, and you'll undoubtedly be the rightful leader of the new base. I shared my thoughts. Sue, do you know why I want to be the leader? He asked, not waiting for my response before continuing. Because I want to protect you, but if striving to be the leader puts you in danger, wouldn't that be missing the point? Hugo's eyes, filled with tenderness and shimmering like crushed stars, held my gaze. My heart raced, caught in the depths of his eyes. A gust of wind snapped me back to reality. Sue, you're being monstrous, even harboring such thoughts about your brother, I thought to myself, shaking my head to regain composure. Hugo, do you have a girl you like? Sue can help you pursue her, I blurted out suddenly. Yes, Sue, I like you, can you help me with that? Hugo replied earnestly, his intense gaze seeming to burn right through me. Caught off guard by his direct confession, I paused, then awkwardly chuckled. Stop joking, I'm 3 years older than you, and I've always seen you as a younger brother. I don't want to be your brother. Sue, don't feel pressured, you don't have to respond now. We can still be as we were, but I'll wait for you. I have plenty of patience, he said with a steadfast look. Meanwhile, the convoy from Tianchang base brought another letter. Chris had written a lot this time, 6 full pages. In the letter, he described the recent challenges and the current state of the Anti-Sky team. He confessed how much he missed my support managing the team since I left. The team was in disarray, with members fighting and complaints about unfair distribution of resources. He was overwhelmed by trivial matters every day, losing the motivation to carry out missions effectively. At the end of the letter, he wrote, Cecilia said she liked me, but I turned her down. I realized you're the only one in my heart. She threatened to join another team. Frankly, I don't care anymore. Sue, it's been so long since you left. I really miss you. Can you come and visit me next time the convoy returns? For Chris, this was almost a humble plea, a tone he had never used with me before, in the past. Such words might have deeply moved me, but now, I no longer cared. Perhaps it's true what they say about love blinding those involved. When I was with him, I saw only him, indifferent to how he treated me. Now that we're apart, I look back and think how foolish I was, letting my emotions cloud my judgment. I had spoiled him, and even his apologies carried a condescending air. It seemed like writing those few pages, just a few soft words, and I'm supposed to forgive him. He expects me to travel back to see him, still wanting me to accommodate him at this point. Can't he take the initiative to visit me? Maybe my previous one-sided efforts gave him the illusion that he doesn't need to make an effort. I tore up the letter and stopped caring about it. That day, 2 people came to see me. To my surprise, they were members of the once formidable team. Why have you come from so far? I was astonished. These 2 were among the weakest in the team. They shouldn't have risked coming all this distance. The taller, thinner one sighed. Sue, the team can't accommodate us anymore. Since you left, everything is based on ability, and we're not getting enough food. We would starve if we stayed. The shorter, plumper one spoke indignantly. Sue, without you, Cecilia acts like she owns the team. She interferes in everything and has tightened the reins on us. But she recently had a fallout with the captain and is planning to switch teams. Many are still trying to persuade her to stay, which is unbelievable. They both looked at me with ingratiating expressions, showering me with compliments. Sue, I didn't expect you to awaken healing powers. Impressive. I always said there was something extraordinary about Sue, definitely not ordinary. I'd say, those people are heartless to not appreciate someone as good as Sue. Without Sue, isn't the team bound to collapse? Seeing they were ready to continue their flattery, I quickly interjected, what do you 2 want? Sue, could you let us join the fireworks squad? They asked with hopeful smiles. No, joining the squad requires passing a strength assessment, and you don't meet the standards. I firmly refused. Unexpectedly, the once amenable me now mercilessly rejected them. Unable to accept this, they were ready to make a scene. Hugo arrived just in time and threw them out. In the face of overwhelming power, they didn't dare to utter a word and skulked away. Was I too naive before? I asked with a wry smile, looking at him. You were just too kind, he replied gently. You did nothing wrong, it was those ingrates. Don't blame yourself. Yes, now I understand. There's no need to be kind to everyone. Some people will never appreciate it. Their minds are only on their own interests, always angling for personal gain. They swarm like flies when there are benefits and leave without looking back when there aren't any, just like these 2. I had looked after them well before, but when I was ousted, They didn't speak up for me. The harshness of this world has taught me to reserve my sincerity for those who deserve it, like the person before me. It is only through fighting side by side that I realized, only Hugo is someone I can trust completely. Whenever danger approaches, his first instinct is always to protect me. I thought my heart had turned cold, but under his patient care, it slowly warmed up again, shedding its icy shell. He really has a warming effect on me. I've been healed. In a little while, the construction of the new base was fully completed. Once all this busy period was over, I thought it was time to give him an answer. He had always been the proactive one in my presence. This time, I decided to take the initiative and confess my feelings to him. Hugo was in trouble. During a fight with a group of zombies, he was ambushed. When I saw him, he was covered in blood and barely alive. Sue. The captain won't make it, the person who brought him back said with a choked voice. Nonsense, he's still alive. Ignoring everyone's advice, I insisted that Hugo could be saved and carried him home myself. I poured all the healing water we had at home into the bathtub and activated my special abilities to keep filling it. I continued until my inner strength was exhausted and the bathtub was finally full. After cleaning the blood off Hugo, I placed him in the bathtub. Soaking in the healing water was the only solution I could think of to give him the maximum treatment. I wasn't sure if it would save him. Hugo had several large wounds, skin torn and flesh gaping, which were horrific to look at. After soaking for a while, the wounds slowly healed. And eventually, there were no injuries left on his body. My tense nerves slightly relaxed. As time ticked by, the darkness outside deepened, and my heart started to worry again. Hugo's eyes remained tightly shut, his face pale, and his breathing grew even weaker. He lay quietly in the water, his chest barely moving, lifeless. Being so close to him for such a long time, I realized for the first time how handsome he was. His facial features were well defined, with sharp eyebrows and a prominent nose. Truly a charming face. No wonder so many girls at the base liked him. However, he had expressed his feelings for me, and I wouldn't let him have the chance to change his mind. As dawn approached, I reached out with trembling hands and gently touched his face. Liar, didn't you say you would always wait for me? Tears streamed down my face as I pulled him into my arms. Didn't you say you would always take care of me? I haven't even confessed to you yet, really. A faint voice emerged from my embrace. Those few words sounded like music from heaven. Coming back to my senses, I looked at him with surprise and joy as he slowly opened his eyes. Overwhelmed with emotion, I cried, Hugo, you scared me to death. I helped Hugo to the bed and hurriedly called for a doctor to examine him. Fortunately, the doctor said that his body was just weak and there were no other issues, and he would recover with proper rest. Hearing that Hugo had awakened, members of our team and other leaders from the base crowded into our house to visit him. Hugo, being a top-notch special abilities user, had just struggled back from the brink of death and still had the energy to chat with the waves of visitors. From their conversations, I learned that this attack was personally carried out by Ray, another top contender at the base vying for ultimate leadership with Hugo. As Hugo's strength continued to grow, it became clear that he was unmatched in a one-on-one fight. With the added support of my healing abilities, his followers were far superior to him. Knowing that, considering everything, he would ultimately lose to Hugo, he devised a sneaky plan. He waited for Hugo to be out battling and planned a surprise attack from behind. Don't worry, I've recovered. Taking care of him will be easy. Hugo reassured his worried close associates. They discussed strategies for a while before dispersing. Finally, after all the visitors had gone, the house quieted down. I served Hugo a bowl of noodles, but instead of eating, he just gazed eagerly at me. Eat, I urged him. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for you to confess your love, he said with a wink. I blushed instantly. Even in his previously unconscious state, he remembered those words. Not now, I said softly, looking down. Then, he looked at me expectantly. After the new base is fully established, I insisted. Sticking to my original plan, shouldn't there be a sense of ceremony? All right, I'll wait. Hugo nodded solemnly. A few more days won't make a difference. In the following period, Hugo was very busy. He completely eradicated Ray and his gang, taking full control of the new base, and rightfully became the leader. The greenery around the lake grew more noticeable, with even a small sapling reaching over a meter in height. This development was eventually noticed and reported back to the base. Pretending to hear about it for the first time, Hugo ordered the area around the lake to be cordoned off and called in researchers to investigate, banning anyone else from approaching. I could no longer secretly pour healing water into the lake, so I resorted to spreading the stored water in various corners of the base at night. Before long, new sprouts began to appear throughout the base. News of the plants growing in the new base spread, attracting people from other major bases. Hugo had to meet and negotiate with leaders from different areas every day, keeping him extremely busy. The grand opening ceremony of the new base kept getting postponed, and so did my confession. During this time, an unexpected visitor arrived. Chris appeared worn and weary. To my surprise, he suddenly embraced me tightly. "Sue, I've missed you so much." I struggled to free myself, but he held on tighter. "Chris, we broke up." "This isn't right," I said coldly. "Finally." Chris let go and looked closely at my face. Then he smiled and playfully flicked my forehead. "Still angry, huh? I never realized you had such a temper before." "Chris, I'm not." "All right, it's my fault. I'm officially apologizing. Sue, I'm sorry for changing your name and causing you trouble over someone who doesn't matter. Can you forgive me?" I had never seen Chris speak to me in such a pleading tone before. "Chris, I just realized that I lost the most important person to me, the team. My teammates, supplies, special abilities. What are all these irrelevant people and things compared to you? I was so foolish to have given you up for these. It's all in the past now," I replied indifferently, seeing how little I cared. A flash of panic crossed Chris's eyes as he gripped my shoulders even tighter. "I took your presence for granted and overlooked your importance, not realizing soon enough how precious you are. I was stupid, and I have already been punished." "Sue, you've been gone for 552 days. I've never been apart from you for so long. Do you know how I've managed to survive this past year and a half? Every minute, every second, I've regretted that foolish decision, wishing I could see you right away. Every night before I sleep, I pray that you would appear in my dreams. I'm so desperate to see your face, to hear your voice, even if you were to scold or hit me. Sue, you're so heartless. Not a single letter, not a single visit in a year and a half." I looked up at him. "Do you know why?" "Please, Sue, don't say it," Chris pleaded, his eyes full of desperation. He still prefers to avoid the truth, as if by not speaking it, it wouldn't exist, but someone wouldn't give him that chance. "I'll tell you why. Because she's been with me," Hugo said, stepping forward and pulling Chris's hands off my shoulders. "Hugo, you little brat, I should have seen this coming when you applied to come to the new base." Chris's eyes gleamed with a murderous rage. "You always hung around her, and I actually thought you saw her as a sister. You didn't cherish her," Hugo retorted unflinchingly. "You brought this upon yourself, looking for death." Chris swung his hand, sending a fierce gust of wind slicing through the air. The two of them started fighting, moving from inside the base to the outside. Both were skilled, each move causing a great commotion, impacting the surrounding buildings. The fight drew a crowd from the base, some wanting to intervene. But Hugo stopped them. After more than half an hour of one-on-one combat, it ended with Chris's defeat. Chris got up from the ground, clutching his chest, spitting out blood. "I underestimated you. I won't back down. Next time, you won't be so lucky." "Fine, I'll be waiting," Hugo replied casually, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Are you okay?" I rushed over, anxiously circling Hugo, seeing only a cut on his arm. I breathed a sigh of relief. I immediately activated my ability, healing his wound with water at my fingertips. In a moment, the wound had vanished, just a minor injury. Hugo smiled sweetly at me. "Sue, have you awakened your ability?" Chris asked in surprise, before I could reply. He gave a bitter smile. "If only you had awakened your ability sooner." "If I had awakened my ability sooner, you wouldn't have let me come to the new base, right?" I interrupted him. "Our relationship, 6 years of being together, is my place in your heart really determined by supernatural abilities? Just because I lack them, does it mean that all my contributions to the team can be ignored? Am I forever inferior to you gifted ones, eventually to be discarded by you, Sue?" "That's not what I meant." Chris coughed up blood violently but still hurried to explain to me, but I was no longer interested in listening. "You're seriously injured. There are other healers with powers at the base. Go find them for treatment." It wasn't until I saw him again that I was sure I had truly let go of those feelings. I used to follow him around all the time, but now, I can barely stand to be with him for a moment longer. "Sue, won't you even heal me?" Chris's voice came from behind, filled with uncontrollable sorrow. "Of course not. because I'm jealous. Hugo didn't even turn his head, just took my hand and led me away. As the new base became greener, more and more people came to join us, even many strong teams and individuals, abandoning their previous treatment and foundations, traveled from other bases far away. They said the greenery at the new base gave them hope. They hoped that one day Earth would return to its original state, lush and full of life, at my suggestion. Hugo named the new base, Hope Base. Initially, those assigned to the new base felt aggrieved and reluctant, thinking they had been abandoned. Now, everyone is grateful they came early. With the population reaching saturation, not just anyone can enter Hope Base now. At the registration desk at the gate, I saw a few former members of the powerful team. We know Hugo, no, Leader Hugo, and Sue, really, we're not lying. We used to be teammates, very close, just tell them. And we can surely get in directly, no need for any silly assessments. One of them shouted loudly. Now, to enter Hope Base, if your abilities aren't strong enough, you must complete assessment tasks, eliminating a certain number of zombies or contributing a certain amount of supplies. The base has limited capacity, and blindly admitting people could mean not even having enough housing to offer. The registration officer was unimpressed. Stop the nonsense, just line up and register. If you want to enter, go do the tasks, otherwise, leave. Will you do it? The men could only nod reluctantly. Yes, we'll do it. Recently, several former teammates had come looking for me and Hugo, using our names. I instructed the registration staff that knowing someone doesn't matter, everyone must follow the rules. As those people left after registering, they murmured quietly, "It's all Chris's fault. If he hadn't treated Sue poorly, she wouldn't be ignoring us now." Yeah. Chris completely broke her heart. At that moment, I actually felt a bit sorry for Chris. Look, these were the teammates he always protected, ignoring my interests and feelings for their sake. Now, they didn't appreciate him in the slightest and were full of complaints. I also felt it was unfair to myself. My sacrifices and dedication ended up benefiting such people. At the base, I also saw Cecilia. Her cousin Hannah was no longer with her, and I wondered whether this girl was still alive. Cecilia followed a tall man, the very person who had once tried to poach her from the Invincible team. It seemed she had indeed left the Invincible team and joined this man's team. However, her treatment was clearly not as good as before. Her clothes were ragged. Unlike before when she wore the best the team had to offer, she had also lost a lot of weight, looking as if a gust of wind could blow her away. Her hair was unkempt, a far cry from the fairy-like image she used to project. She smiled pleasingly at the man beside her, saying something that earned her a slap from him, and she didn't dare to utter a sound. Another case of someone reaping what they sowed. I felt no pity for her and left after a glance. Thanks to Hugo's substantial investment in resources, the scientists finally uncovered the reason behind the plant growth. They identified a substance in the lake water and the soil at the base that absorbed the toxins that had permeated the soil and water since the apocalypse, purifying them back to their pre-apocalyptic state. Most importantly, this substance had the ability to self-replicate, and the area it purified was growing. Everyone was overjoyed at this news. If this continued, one day, every inch of the Earth's soil would be purified, once the zombies were eradicated. We could return to our pre-apocalyptic lives. The base was thrown into a frenzy of celebration. I too was thrilled, because with the self-replicating nature of the substance, my presence became less conspicuous. I hoped our base would outshine other major bases in the post-apocalyptic world due to this greenery, with our overall strength securely at the top, and with Hugo as the sole leader of Hope Base. He now had enough power to protect me. Hugo chose a day to publicly reveal my identity as the all-powerful healer and informed the world that the greenery at Hope Base was due to my powers. Suddenly, I was thrust into the limelight and received widespread support. Many people began calling me Goddess, a title so cheesy it made me cringe. Some even suggested that Hugo step down, arguing that based on contributions, I should be the leader of Hope Base. Hugo seriously nodded. "I think they make a good point. Why don't you take over?" I rolled my eyes at him. No way, I didn't want to be worked to death. My name spread to every corner of the world, and everyone knew of my contributions to the post-apocalyptic world. People queued up daily to meet me. To avoid the limelight, I found a place to hide, refusing to see anyone except Hugo. "What does it have to do with you?" I said, then remembered. "Right, Hannah is your cousin, so, it was you who had Chris replace her with me." I disappeared for a while. And soon the fervor died down. I was assisting the scientists in studying why only my healing water could revive the plants when Chris appeared again. He came to bid me farewell. The highway between Tianchang Base and Hope Base is utterly destroyed, and the new road construction will start soon. I've decided to join the construction crew to contribute to the development of both bases. He smiled at me. You're a top-tier warrior. Working on the road is a bit of a waste of your talents, I sincerely advised him. Besides, road construction is tough, and with your skills, there's no need to endure such hardship. Sue, whenever I think of you as a normal person without powers, having to travel thousands of miles on this road, encountering so many dangers, risking your life carelessly, I feel like I've lost my conscience for not considering you then. Thinking about this makes me want to kill myself. I am now only grateful to Hugo. Without his protection all along, you might not even be alive right now. I want to tread every inch of the path you walked, to feel the hardships you endured. As my way of atonement, I looked at him, wanting to say something but stopping myself. Sue, don't try to persuade me. I can't allow myself any good days now, otherwise, my conscience will torment me. Only when I am physically and mentally tortured do I feel somewhat relieved. This visit is to bid you farewell, wishing you eternal happiness. Goodbye. Chris waved at me, leaving behind a lonely and desolate silhouette. In that moment, I was overwhelmed with emotions. The lover who was once so close could one day become a stranger. Haven't you had enough? An annoyed voice came from behind me. There it goes again. How had I never noticed this guy was so jealous before? Where did this handsome young man come from? I turned around, feigning surprise. Cut it out. Haven't you forgotten you still owe me something? He wasn't swayed by my flattery. What thing? I pretended not to understand, looking around distractedly. A confession. He was visibly frustrated. How long must I wait for you to fulfill your promise? I said after the grand opening ceremony of the base. Didn't I? We can't do it right now. I started to make excuses. I hoped the grand opening of the base hadn't taken place yet because, with the sudden increase in population and the development of greenery, the base urgently needed further reconstruction and expansion. The new construction had begun. I used this as an excuse to delay confessing to him, finding it amusing to tease him. He turned and walked away. Hey, what are you doing? Notify the whole base. The grand opening ceremony is tomorrow.